The CoCo Nation Show is an unscripted, live, and interactive broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own, and not necessarily those of the CoCo Nation Show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds are encouraged, and a sense of humor is recommended. Thank you for being a part of the CoCo Nation.
Radio Shack? Okay.
What?
The 80s called.
Welcome to the CoCo Nation, the world's first live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and its hardware cousins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CoCo Nation Show, episode 323.
That many?
Turning things on.
We're up to that many.
Turning things on, just so you know.
And we have a panel full today. Let's see who we got with us. Top left corner. Oh, I need to flip this little switch over here so that everyone's on the same page. All right, top left, we got Mark Overhoser.
Me? Again? Thanks.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
And second over, Sloopy Malibu.
Greetings and sanitations.
Okay.
And salutations.
And next up, Rick Euland.
Also moderately pleased to be here. Hi, folks.
Only moderately. All right, L. Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
And next up, yours truly. I had to throw the cat out, getting too frisky today. Too much blood drawn. Let's see. Sitting in the observatory, Ron Delvaux.
That's right, from the Delvaux Observatory in Fountain Hills, Arizona. It's a dry heat.
Keep telling yourself that.
It's dry heat.
Well, don't they put observatories like on the top of mountains and stuff?
Just where it's clear.
Well, we're at 1,260 feet above sea level.
Oh, okay.
And it's
That's
dry.
why I got to keep looking up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Next over, Grant Leedy.
Hello, everybody. I have no clue what I'm doing here today.
So
Well,
just
just
like
like
every
the
other
rest of us.
time you're here.
No objection here.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys. Thanks. I feel
next
the
up-
love.
Next up is Alan.
Howdy, everyone. Glad
Good
you're
to see
here.
your face.
There's differences of opinion on that.
Nah. You got a beard, you're just like the rest of us.
Let's see. Next up, Brian Weasler.
Hello, all. Welcome to the show.
Okay, and Ken Waters.
Howdy, everybody.
Okay, and Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing? And let's see, Nick Marentes.
Hello, everyone. I'm moderately awake today.
And tomorrow?
All right.
More coffee and
tomorrow?
Vegemite.
Or tomorrow.
Already
yeah.
tomorrow.
What, Simon?
All right, next up, also on another continent, Simon.
Hello, guys.
Mr. Jonathan.
How you doing?
Yeah, I didn't disappear off the face of the earth.
No, that's good.
Oh, you just slid off the bottom, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Good to see you.
You in
Congratulations
Australia,
on your
then?
anniversary, too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Hip,
All right. And last but not least, David Ladd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show.
Oh,
Okay, that's the panel.
Sorry about that.
Let's
Yeah.
see.
David Ladd has his power shirt on.
That's right. I think I've seen that at CoCo Fest.
Indeed.
That way we can find them to avoid them. All right, so let's see. First on the agenda, we have project updates. Let's see, Brian, you ready, or you want to go first, Alan?
No, go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
All right, Brian, let's see what you got.
Okay. Hello, just a couple things here then today. I'll go ahead and switch cameras here. A few weeks ago, I shared this that I had purchased from a guy. There we go.
Multi-pack.
MPI.
Multi-pack board here that I had that. And the other day here, maybe about a week or so ago, I received a box in the mail. And in that box was a box. Let me back up here just a little bit. It's a scribbled box. It has some stuff on there and has various writing on there. And inside this box was a multi-pack.
Another box.
Another box.
The middle
just a shell?
version of it too.
The middle version of the box.
Well, middle version
But,
of the multi-pack too.
But what this is the this would be the shell of it.
Just
So
a shell. Yep.
that was
Wow.
a nice generous offering there from Mr. Rick Eulen. Sent this to me here. So
Oh,
now,
nice.
so now
I
the
think
board
he
here has a
Has
home.
a home.
So
Yeah,
and
I think he did a bunch of repacks. That's why he had spare shells and not.
I think that was
Exactly.
yep. And I do have the power supply. It's just not here with me right now though, but I have the AC adapter for it. So, and I believe I have a lone switch that was from I can't remember how I came across it though, but I think I might have the little switch that hangs out the front here, so you can kind of switch back and forth a little bit. So yes, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate that. So
Certainly welcome.
Thank you, Rick.
Another multi-pack lives in the world.
there we go.
Now, do you have a white case CoCo to go with it? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I do have a white case
Oh,
CoCo.
most of
Yes.
That might happen.
More than one.
So yeah, so that was very very nice to receive that there. But also in the box too, because that I think the same day I shared the multi-pack board, I also shared a deluxe joystick, and it had a bad the little switch on the back that you use to switch. And in the box there,
Lock it.
Rick also included the little lock piece that that's
Oh,
on the bottom
cool.
there. Now, is that an actual one or is that a 3D printed one, Rick? I was going to ask.
That's an actual one from the single fire button joystick, so it avoids all of the different kinds of ones that were made.
Okay,
There were a couple of slightly different ones, so that should be the right one for the stick that you showed.
for that one. Okay, very good. Yep, I'll add that to my project list of things to work on. So yeah.
Brian, did you get a little note in there that said you owe me?
And I owe you? No, but I may return the favor. So
Yeah, that's good enough. I mean, I've got a metric crap ton of spare parts. It comes in handy for all of us.
let's hear.
Did Tandy? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Oh, did Tandy make the large white case, many of the white case large CoCo cases at all back in the day? Because I thought it's a bit strange why Tandy would go and start making those white multi-packs of the old style.
Well, those were CoCo 2.
Yeah, that was for the early CoCo 2s, or the 64K CoCo was supposed to match. And then they came out with this shrunk down Tandy one a little bit later, about 85 or 6 or something, I think.
But fortunately, they kept selling the multi-pack, so they never upgraded it, right away, but they kept selling it. So there are a lot more than you would think, given the number of white CoCo ones.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Next, I saw this pop up, and I had to grab it because I had a reason for wanting to. If that doesn't kind of give it away there a little bit.
CoCo SDC.
So this would be the one that that Retro Rewind is producing. So this one was actually online that a person was reselling.
What color's the board?
What color's the board? It's blue on the inside. It's a blue PCB. So
Okay.
But I wanted to get a black one though, because I wanted to move this sticker to the bottom. So I still know who made it though. And I'm going to make myself a dragon logo sticker that I wanted to put here because I wanted to get a black one to use just for the dragon. So I'm going to set this one up just for use with the dragon with the black. I thought it would look nice with their case and everything. So yeah. So I received that. Let's see here. What was the next thing I was going to share with you guys here?
A hand.
A hand, yes. So this gentleman that I bought a number of things from there, he just had some random stuff. I mean, I got a case, a CoCo One case from him. I got a CoCo One board from him. I got the multi-pack board from him. And on the last, and also some bunch of transformers for like floppy drives that were like, I think maybe the FD, it might be the 500. He doesn't have the case or anything like that. He was kind of dismantling some stuff. And he said he had a bunch of random chips. And he thought maybe I might get some use for them. So he just threw those in the box. And so I was going to share some of these with you guys to see if maybe some of you might know if there's any CoCo value with some of these chips here. Let me see if I can do this. I had them all organized, and then of course I bumped the box and I made a big mess here. So I know this one's, so here's let me see if I can zoom in here enough here. Let me get this here. There we go. Let's see how we're doing here. Oop, find my spot here. Is that enough there? Now it's coming in blurry, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's got an awful lot of pins on it.
Is that the
And
MS6?
it says
There we go.
68,000 again.
That's a Motorola 68,000. Yeah. 8 megahertz, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big chip. This is like,
That's
I don't know how many
actually
pins.
Thompson. Yeah, 60, I believe. It's a Thompson semiconductor. So
Okay.
France.
And so I know this may not be CoCo related, but I mean, it's a 68,000. So I thought it was kind of, and he had 2 of those in the box there. So I don't know what these might have been used for. This is that was a Motorola one there.
So like a Delmar 4 had those, or
Yeah,
Peripheral
Delmar System 4,
Technologies.
System 5. Yeah.
Yeah, was that the PT that had this chip massively featured during the time of the CoCo?
And Micro RGS had a 68008 board, the 8-bit version of the 68000 they sold back in 84, I think.
When
I
did
don't know
these
if you
come
maybe
out?
had those.
Did the TI have the 68,000?
No, this is all Motorola's thing.
That's on Motorola.
TI had the
The
TMS.
TI 994A computer.
No, that was the
Yeah.
TMS. What was its
990.
number?
Yeah,
Or
some
9900.
Something
Yeah, it was
like
their own
that.
chip.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
These chips came out about the same time as the 6809. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah, pretty
Yes.
pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not in
Shortly
time
after.
to be the IBM PC's main chip. They missed
Yeah.
it by that
Right.
much, which is why
This is the chip that was used in the Amiga, the Atari ST, and the Mac,
Okay.
as well as some
And
game
then,
consoles, arcade games, et cetera, et cetera.
And then there's a whole slug of these in here. These, is it Mosley? That's how it's pronounced?
Moselle?
Moselle?
Can't read the numbers under it, though.
It's an MS 62614, is it?
Looks to
62641.
It's a defibrillator.
Well, I just
Some sort
had
of-
not
That might be a
zooming here. Sorry,
ROM.
guys. I was
yeah,
kinda-
some
maybe
sort of
they
a
might
memory
zoom-
device.
I have
Yeah,
no idea.
mask
Can
ROM.
you tell?
Be my guess.
Okay. Also in the pile was a lot of these. This NEC D4364.
Static RAM, I would think.
Yeah,
Right.
50 now would
At
would
8K by 8.
8K,
150 nanosecond.
Okay.
8K static RAM, 150 nanosecond.
It's a guidance chip for a torpedo.
Frederick Pravanchi said, didn't the TC9 have capability to add a 6800? And
68,000, yeah.
J.E. Jones said Smoke Signal Broadcasting made an SS50C board with a 6808 on it. That would make a lot of sense. That is definitely.
And then this is a prom here. This one here's a where's the number at here?
Looks
I'm looking
like,
for here. It's a
it's,
27C 128.
AMD. Little AMD symbol. Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if this was one that could be used to burn some EEPROMs for CoCo.
So that would be 8K. Is the 27C 128?
Yeah, the 128 could be used in the CoCo.
Yeah,
with
okay.
appropriate
28 pin.
adapters.
That's a 16K byte.
16 is it?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 16. Right. Because 512 64. So yeah.
And
So
yes,
does it have a window behind the sticker?
Yes, it does.
should.
Yes, it would.
and
We
yes,
use
the CoCo.
we use 27C6 512s all the time at work,
Okay.
and I erase them regularly and reprogram them regularly.
And then there was this guy here, which we may recognize, an EF68B,
ST
6809P.
micro.
So,
Oh,
but
I
the
didn't
CoCo
realize.
uses the E, doesn't it? Not the P.
External clock.
Right, yeah.
He
Yeah.
means plastic.
So that's a 2 megahertz rated part, but yeah.
Yes, I didn't realize that ST Micro was a licensed manufacturer of them.
When they say external clock and these show up, does that mean the clock's inside?
Correct.
Yeah, it generates its own clocks like the SAM would.
Yeah, it has a crystal basically inside.
Oh, interesting.
And then I think the last one that I have that's not a duplicate of everything else that's in here would be this 6802. MC 6802.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's a 6800 with some extra IO built in, isn't it?
I think
Yeah,
it has some
some
RAM or two.
Microcontroller
I think it has like 128 bytes of RAM or something in it also.
and some IO port.
yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's
very
kind of like a
sexy.
6803, except not quite as large of a number.
It's related to what's in the MC10.
Yeah, but it ended up doing like powering refrigerators and things like that, right?
Yeah, it's
Just-
really a true microcontroller.
Okay. And then I guess the last thing I just wanted to kind of share is where did it go? Here it is. So was it last month? Maybe it's been 2 months ago. We were talking about the light guns. And Dave was working on his reproduction of the DICOM interface for it. And he was looking at, I think he's working on an option there for the 9 volts, so you don't have to necessarily use a battery. Well, I don't know, scrolling through some stuff and I came across this, so I went ahead and picked it up. It's basically a 9-volt DC power block, but
Oh,
That's exactly what I have with mine.
yeah. So I was going to use this, and it came with this nice long. This is a 10-foot cord that came with it. So I thought, oh, this might be a nice little option to if I want to use it without having to go find a 9-volt battery every time. So I thought that was kind of a nice alternative, and maybe that's what Dave's looking at. I can't remember what option he's looking at, but he might be looking at something similar.
It'll always be charged up.
It would
Yeah.
be. Yep.
The only difference with mine, I have one of those universal ones, so it's got 4 different connectors. The 9 volts just one of the 4.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got I think mine's also got adjustable anywhere from 3 to 12 volts. You'd have this little slide switch you can switch between, but that's what I use on my DICOM as well.
Sure. Okay. Very cool. Well, that's all I have for you this week, guys. Just a few little things there. So thank you.
I found a data sheet for the 6802. It says it has an on-chip clock, so it's like internal clock. It also has 128 by 8 bits of onboard RAM, and it also has 32 bytes of RAM at a retainable. It has either battery or something to power it to sustain power cycles. Yeah, it's truly a microcontroller. I mean, it's got pretty much everything your modern microcontrollers have in it.
Okay.
right. So that sad little chip never did much more than would fit in its onboard RAM. And just kind of slaved away as a little.
It's amazing when you write programs, because I've worked with embedded systems like this for 20 years now, how little RAM you really need. I mean, for most things, you only need just a few bytes to do stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the external ROM would be what would control it, like the program. And then the RAM is just your little scratch pad you need for whatever variables
Whatever
you're
needs to be.
bringing with.
Yep, exactly. It's amazing how much you can do in that amount of space. So
And sorry, David, I didn't have anything floppy related this week for you. So my apologies.
Loser.
Okay. Alan, you're up next.
Thanks.
Alrighty then. So I actually have 3 different updates this week. I'll try to make each one of them kind of short and simple. The first one was kind of an interesting little side road that I ran down earlier this week in the Discord basic channel.
Erico Montero had pointed out some speed up code that was listed in TRS-80 Kalur Computer Space Adventures for 16K, a book of 6 different type-in programs. And he was trying to, go through how all that worked and what he was using that for, but he mentioned that it didn't seem to work. And William Assel, Lost Wizard, took a look and went, yeah, it's missing some stuff. And so then we went figuring out what was missing. And I have tried to recreate the missing line and add it to my webpage about that particular book with a copy of all the type-in programs that I had done and updated what was on the archive with. So I posted the link into the chat for the page itself, but the basic idea was that it had all of the configuration needed, but it never actually activated it. And if you look in the basic channel on the CoCo Discord, there is a kind of a fun discussion, and it's one of the pinned messages that kind of goes through the whole process. But in the end, I took that discussion and the idea of the fix, and Erico is now going to test it in his copies of the programs. But I went ahead and wrote up what all that little chunk of code was supposed to do and put that on the webpage as well. So if you've ever kind of wondered how those little speed up things worked and what they were doing, there is an example of one that was from that book that was for each of the 6 programs, and a starting discussion of what each of those little pieces of basic code, they're just pokes, what they're really doing and why and how that worked and what the thinking was. So hopefully, people will find that interesting. And now the programs are hopefully fixed, and I'll take that and package that back up and send that up to Guillaume to update what is on the CoCo archive.
Now, did those programs work at all before? Like, was this preventing it from working, or is it just not work efficiently?
The speed up poke was basically, what it did was it took a chunk of the basic ROM, copied it into RAM, poked out, and made no operations for the part that checked the break key. And that was supposed to, of course, without the break key checking, was supposed to speed up how the basic program ran. But nothing ever actually put that patched version of RAM code into use. So it wasn't actually put into the vector to be called. And so the games would play, and you could type in these extra lines, and it would make no difference. They would not get any faster. So hopefully now they will. And I tried to explain what they were for the folks who are working with those basic programs and playing with those basic games just in general. And along the way, I found out that the fact that Mr. Dave had sent me the book originally because he didn't want it. And I'm like, sure, I'll take it. I'll type them all in and get them all going. And one of the games on there, Moon Shuttle, is what kind of prompted Erico to go ahead and get going on his game called Below, which is the Lunar Lander game that he's been building since. So I didn't even know that until he mentioned it at the time. So it's been kind of a neat little circle all week, going through this, debugging some 40-year-old printed book code and updating it and finding out that, wow, this stupid webpage that I write, people actually have been looking at it, which is kind of scary on its own. So that's the update with Color Computer Space Adventures. And those are kind of fun. There's one of them that I really like called Protector, that the ship looks like the little shuttlecraft from the movie Alien, which is what caught my eye originally.
And you posted the link to the Space Adventures blog on your page there in the chat. So
yes.
Alan,
yes.
Did you recap your CoCo 3 there?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because it looks like the juice is coming out of the top of your CoCo over there.
Is that a face hugger? It is a face hugger.
Okay.
Okay, now I see what that had to do with anything.
Okay.
The background, nice. And that's what I was actually typing in all those programs on at the time. So, okay, if there's no other questions with that, then I'll go to my second update. another side project, kind of basic related, that I've been talking with a couple of people about on the Discord is I have been going through a book called Language of the Dragon, 6809 Assembly by Mike James. And it's from 1983 or 1984. And it turned out to be a very fascinating book for me because of the approach to assembly language. I've not seen it in any other books, really anywhere. There's one that kind of came close for the C64, but not anywhere remotely like this one. So what was so cool about this book is that chapter by chapter, it introduces 6809 assembly language on the Dragon as advertised on the cover by creating an assembler in BASIC on the Dragon. So chapter 1 is some introductory stuff. Chapter 2, you actually start laying in lines of BASIC code to outline the modules of an assembler. And by the end of chapter 2, it's able to assemble like 2 or 4 instructions only, but the fundamentals are there. And so it introduces just those instructions and the code needed to actually assemble it into memory and explain how that stuff works. Super, super cool. I've only seen one incremental build approach like this before, which is a very famous paper by Gulum from 2011 on writing compilers. This is from much earlier, and you end up with an assembler program. You end up with a good chunk of 6809 assembly language introduced, explained. You have the understanding of the internals of the assembler that is actually doing the translation. So you get to kind of understand assembly by being the computer translating it into machine code. So if you've ever had the interest in learning assembly language, and some of the books that exist out there haven't worked for you or kind of turned you off because they're a different approach on most of those, give this one a shot. It's a different take, and I found it a heck of a lot of fun to go through. I don't know if I would say I learned a lot of new stuff from it, but I do have a much deeper appreciation of what assemblers like LWASM go through to do what they do. And I have a much clearer understanding, I think, of how the machine code lays in memory and is picked up and processed by the microprocessor as it goes. It's about 11 chapters of content. Each of the chapters is different length. Along the way, there's a kind of a large example where you build a Pong type squash game where you're bouncing a cursor around the screen and you have a paddle that you're moving back and forth that will reflect the ball back up and things like that. And you do all of that in assembly stage by stage, which is, I thought, was a pretty good example. And then there's another chapter that has sound processing code so that you can actually drive the DAC from assembly and start, and it's not super fast code or super great code. And it's not super long code because the assembler is fairly limited running from BASIC. And it's really slow because it's BASIC, but it's faster than I would have expected. And it's fast enough to do the job that it was intending to do. And of course, I added the speed up poke to the beginning of it, which really helps. The book
is that available on the archive?
It is available on both archives, World of Dragon Archive and the Color Computer Archive. And I think it was on the Internet Archive too, but I'd have to double check again because my memory may be faulty. The examples in the code are for the Dragon, but along the way, I did try modifying them to work on the CoCo, and they did without problem. The one big downside to the book is the typos. There are a bunch of them. So apparently the typesetter was not very familiar with assembly language. And there's some places where you have the LOX command instead of LOD or LDX, and just a bunch of stuff. But the entire assembler is printed at the back of the book. And by comparing to what that listing was, you can generally figure out what went wrong. But so the point of bringing all this up as the project is that if you are interested and you start working through the book and you run into something goofy, let me know. Because eventually I'm going to take my notes and get them up on my website as well with what all the actual typos and fixes were. But until I do that, I am still available. Just ask. If you get stumped and can't figure it out in a couple of minutes, let me know. I'll look back at my notes for that chapter and see if I can figure out what it was going. And sometimes it would be just there was a left out line in the chapter listing that is in the final listing. So, but overall, the book was really good. The explanations are really well done for it, but you have to read them carefully. I mean, you have to kind of go slow. Assembly language is not something you run through. You know, if you're going to go through this, take a look at it, but be patient with yourself. Give that line a good look before moving to the next one, because he has some very nuanced verbiage in there that really does matter, and it really turned out to be very good descriptions of and reasoning for what was going on there. So impressed with the book, amazed with the approach, had a great time going through it just for the heck of going through it. And now I've got a whole directory full of an assembler written in BASIC for the 6809 that does almost the entire opcode set, more than enough to be useful if your program is short. So yeah, that's that project and that update. And if anyone has any questions.
Is this a book that you found online and you don't have it physically in your hand to show us?
I don't have it physically in my hands. It was only online, and I was just curious and ended up getting drawn in. I was like, language of the I haven't seen this one before. 69 assembly. What does it got to say? Wow, hey, this is actually really cool. And I just kept going. I just kind of got dragged in and liked it. Go ahead.
Alan, I know you and I've talked about this book a number of different times, but does it start out with as if you know nothing? Is that kind of where it, okay.
Yes, it is. It assumes that you know a little bit about BASIC. If you've done anything like the Getting Started books, you have more than you need to get through this.
Good.
And it goes through and shows you small chunks of the BASIC code, then explains the instructions that BASIC code are going to be adding to the assembler, and then generally gives you some examples of how that assembler code works. So you understand both the basic assembler program itself and the assembly language and the example, kind of what they're all doing together. It's part of what I found was such a great approach for it.
Do you think that this is good because it kind of goes in line with your thinking, maybe?
Yeah.
As compared to some of the other.
I thought it worked well with the Getting Started books, the same approach. Those books basically, here's an instruction, here's a little bit of BASIC to do that, here's some little examples that you can work, and then maybe there's a sample program at the back of the book, and then we're going to introduce the next part. So it was very incremental rather than something like, and as much as I love Leventhal's book on the 6809, it's chapter 3 is basically throws the entire addressing system in the 68.
Yeah, that's not a good beginner's book. I use it as a reference guide after I learned assembly.
Exactly. But if you start that chapter 3, it just goes on and on and on forever. And there's diagrams that you have to just kind of puzzle through to understand. Okay, and without the concrete examples, I mean, Leventhal explains why you would be using that particular kind of mode, but there's not like examples right there that says, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, to kind of lead you through that why. But yeah, Leventhal's book is great. I love that too, and I do have that one physically. But as a coming from, I've got a CoCo and I've got Getting Started with Color Basic, and I have finished Getting Started with Color Basic, and I'm running into places where my basic games aren't fast enough, then this Language of the Dragon 6809 assembly book by Mike James could be that next bridge that gets you from basic into the early assembly language stuff where you're getting useful things out of it without being some sort of virtuoso. That's exactly where I'm at. I can make things like loops and whatever, and things happen, yay, things explode, yay. It does what it does. But I am by no means any kind of virtuoso with the design or programming of 6809. So this was this to me could have been a great third getting started book. And if you'd have just put little illustrations with the computer guy in there, done. Of course, it would have had to been a dragon guy in that case, but the CoCo conversions that I did were very simple to do. I mean, it's literally changing PIA addresses and changing key value numbers, and that was it. And then they work. So, and I'm going to put those conversions up, and for anyone who does in the future go through this book, happy to share how that works. If you want to tackle trying to how that conversion would do yourself, and if you don't figure it out, then I can give you a hint or something. Happy to do that too.
Yeah, and for those interested in the book, Mark posted a link to it on the World of Dragon archive that you can go take a look at it.
Yeah, super cool stuff. And
Robert was kind enough to share with me earlier. So
yeah, I hear the lament a lot. Oh, I'd love to learn assembly, but I don't. Oh, I looked at it; it's horrible. Blah blah. This is so incremental, and it is building on what you know for basic, and just adding a little more at a time to it. So I think that it could be really helpful. Huh?
Yeah, I would say that I haven't checked out this one. It sounds like an interesting approach to it. Like you said, it's a little bit different than quite a few others are. The other one that I found really easy to understand and kind of tweaks the game writers especially is the semi-language graphics for the Tier City Color Computer by Don and Kurt Inman. That's the one where I learned how to do graphics and sound and everything else, and I preferred over Barden's and Leventhal's and Zach's.
Yeah, fortunately, I think that one, the Inman book was the fourth one that I got, and that one would have been, I think, a pretty straight up starting point, especially when I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah,
I think that one would have been a lot more helpful.
But it's good having the two approaches, because that one kind of it does a standard assembly approach type thing, while the one you're talking about here actually has a totally different approach. So if your brain works differently and this works better towards the way you learn, this might be the best option for somebody.
Or if you are a basic programmer that just needs enough assembly to speed up just some things, this can get you there, because I mean, you understand by building an assembler how the program in BASIC, which you already know, is creating the machine code. And that helps reinforce what the machine code, the operations themselves are. I thought was a fantastic approach. I wish I'd have seen that a lot more places.
Plus, it means you don't have to buy an assembler. Well, back in the day anyway. I mean, obviously now you just download it. But back then, if you bought the Barden book, if you bought the Don and Kurt Inman book, you had to buy EdTasm for $40
or Micro 80 or yeah. And
SDC,
this book, the last bit is a recommendation on commercial assemblers to go further and what kind of features they have. And it talks about Demon, DASM, and Dream. And I know that the Dragon folks I've heard them recommend Dream Assembler a number of times. And this guy's like, here, this is what I built. You can get started with it, but here's where you're going to want to go if you keep doing anything at all. This is where you want to go. So they're very cool stuff. I can't recommend this book highly enough for basic programmers who want to start getting into assembly without having to try to swallow the entire programmer's manual at once.
When I first started fooling around with the BASIC, I ran into the Peaks, Pokes, and Execs book, thing, and I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't have to learn that language. I could just learn the BASIC and then do all these, peaks and pokes going out to, and then that would be just as fast as doing assembly. I was thinking in my mind, and then as time went on, and I watched some of the shows, and it's like nothing's close to assembly language, right?
The closest probably be fourth or C if you wanted to do that, but you still have to learn a whole new language. So
yeah, the whole thing.
But I saw that book of Pokes, Peaks, and Exec, and if you go through and you look at all the different things it controls, and then I start thinking to myself, well, I could, make a basic program and include some of this stuff, and it would do neat things. But then,
and that's what that particular book was for. Was if you're not going to do the full blown assembly thing, you can at least leverage more than what the basic. So, and to wrap up, my third update project-wise this week is that I seem to have finally gotten fully back into working on Nostromo. And I showed an update a couple of weeks ago of finally being able to move around the map and going past my original throwdown cheap version of proof of concept stuff. I've been working on the pieces of Z80 code that implement the treasure pickup and breaking down walls and things. And this week I found that I'm a complete idiot. When I went through and did the disassembly of the Z80 crate, I fed it to Glenn Hewlett's Z80 to 6809 converter, and that worked great. So I had a kind of a rough idea of what the 6809 was supposed to be doing for the Z80 equivalent. And then I completely and utterly failed to comment a couple of sections that are fairly important remotely correctly. I was so far off what was actually going on. I don't know how I talked myself into this particular comment hole, but it has thrown me completely down the wrong path for quite a while. And the code before it, I got that all works just fine. And the code after it, I got that all works just fine. But this pair of routines that are the heart of, have I collided with the wall? Do I knock it down to the next section? Not fully, that kind of stuff. I got that completely backwards, upside down, and inside out all at once. And I'm just kind of flabbergasted at how way off I was. But anyway, this week I finally figured that out. So I went and I erased all those old broken comments and I started retranslating it line by line again and coming up with a completely different set of code and thinking and understanding of what's going on. And this is all very Z80 and NEC machine specific. So it is exactly how that machine was working internally and how the Z80 was. There were tricks that you can do with Z80 assembly that were doing things in that specific machine. And that's what I'm up against. But it's not 100% working. But last night I started knocking down some walls badly. And I ended up blowing myself up and the whole ship exploded. But walls were knocked down. And so progress has been made.
I'll let you in a little secret. There's a lot of that type of miscommented code in Nitrous 9 from when Bill and me and Alan were just trying to figure out everything because we're just assembling everything raw with no documentation, basically. And there's times that we went off on tangents and then we take a look and you've got like 200 and some odd K of source code and going, I'm not rewriting all that crap. I'll just put a note at the beginning saying, ignore comments for this routine. They're wrong. It's actually doing this.
Yeah, that's right where I was I sat there and it just like, okay, no, that isn't what that's doing at all. That has nothing to do with anything. What was I even thinking? Delete. Yeah, I just started scrubbing lines. Okay, start over. All right, everything else is working. This, I just start over. Throw out the old, that's dumb. I was an idiot. Now do it again. This time do it right. And it seems to be getting there. So, and now I'm just basically wrestling with what I thought I was originally wrestling with, which was the difference in how carry flag works and some other strange stuff. But I actually had to start doing some MAME debugger memory dumps to figure out what was really going on in that NEC machine at certain parts of the code. Because, yeah, the machine specific tricks that were going on there for addressing and making logic decisions based on the machine state, I can't just guess this. I have to just go look. What the heck is it doing? So anyway, back on the case, more investigation, slow progress is slowly grinding on opcode by opcode. That's my updates.
It's good to see you're doing progress.
What do you need comments for? The code should be self-evident.
Especially when it's self-modifying, right?
Especially when you're reading your own code like 7 months later.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Problem with writing your own code is that you know in your head what it's supposed to be doing, so you just assume that whether it's doing that or not.
That's what it's actually
right.
doing.
And every time you debug it, you read exactly what you want it to do, no matter what it actually.
And you're going,
says
what is
it's
wrong with
doing.
this machine? This CPU is screwed here. I'm doing this right.
Have I found a bug in the hardware? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've thought that at times. Then you take a look a little bit. Oh, that's a B, not an A. Whoops. Except
Oh,
Nick. Nick does everything perfectly in code. So.
I forgot a number sign. That's my
Really?
biggest sin is I'll
Yeah.
forget the immediate. Or I'll put an immediate that wasn't supposed to be there. Either
Yeah.
one. Something with a number sign.
Or
Whenever
forget the
it
dollar
stops
sign, so it
working-
does a decimal instead of a hex or something. That's another one I've done quite a bit.
Whenever something stops working, the first thing I start at, do I need a dollar sign? Did I forget a dollar sign? I mean, no. Yeah, such a mess. Anyway, lots of fun this week. More to come.
Cool.
Okay, any other project updates or acquisitions or?
Especially for those who joined the show a little bit later. Maybe Brian Schubring, did you have anything? Or
No, not really. Can you hear me coming through?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah, just keeping healthy and wearing out the storm that came through last night.
Right.
yeah, Grant went through a heck of a storm there too. Has everything finally resolved there, Grant? If you're kicking around.
Nope, sorry. So yeah, the storm went through a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I got unfortunately my car is probably going to be totaled, my old car, and I'm going to be getting a new roof and new gutters. It looks like to be put on the house. So a lot of work coming up.
So are you living, or you're still at home though? Like it didn't damage the roof bad enough that you have to like leave and live in a hotel, or did it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not that bad, but it's enough that you have to get the old roof off and repair it and so forth. Because
Okay.
when the tree fell down, it kind of bent everything on that one side. So we have a tarp up there and everything right now.
So this is how you upgrade your house instead of doing it voluntarily. The weather gives you a new roof.
Yeah, this is where instead of me chasing the storms were chasing me this time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they gave you a new car, so there you go.
Yep, that's true.
It's not nice to mess with Mother Nature.
That is true. She'll
Is
come
your
back
dog-
and get you.
Is your dog's name Toto?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's any other project updates, acquisitions. So
Okay, so first commercial break and then Ken, are you ready
All
for
righty.
game on?
No, I'm sleeping right now.
Okay.
Well, wake yourself up.
You got
Okay,
two-
I'm ready.
You got 2 minutes.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. We're watching the CoCo Nation Show. Yeah, we are. Woo! You should too.
Hello, everyone. It's your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo, and joined by that dastardly The Brent from ARG Presents.
You're watching CoCo Nation.
I feel like that should have been longer.
The CoCo Nation Show would like to thank the following patrons: Alex Gare, Brendan Donahue, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Kieran Anscombe, Coconut Bob, Daddy Burrito, Diego BF109, Don Barber, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Glenn Wabke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, John Bodovkarshaller, Justin Larson, Ken Reichard, Kevin Holloway, Mike Rayburn, Patrick Euland, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, R. Allen Murphy, Retro Tech Time, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Steve Batson, Terry Steege, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., Tony C., and William Athing. Thank you so much, patrons.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord?
Matrix Girl says, I'm Zuki, I'm getting a Tandy 3000 HL that apparently turned on once but won't turn on again. I've done some soldering projects related to modding game consoles, Atari VCS and Game Boys, but haven't done too much that would apply to fixing power issues. Hopefully I get it and it turns on, but if not I'll be asking for help around here. Found this place through a Google search. Gruffazilla says, the CoCo was my first computer. Just checking things out. My name is Randall. I develop browsers and mobile games as a hobby at gruffazilla.com. I found out about this server at the Austin Classic Game Fest. The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Boysen, Glenside Computer Club, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Tandy Color Computer 3, and the CoCo Nation patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.thecoconation.com.
See you on Discord.
Welcome everybody to the CoCo Nation Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played Asteroids RX. We had a total of 9 players. We had Sloopy Malibu, who couldn't get the program running, so he got a big fat 0. Shenley, 5680. Exile in Paradise, 7670. Coconut Bob, 9430. L. Curtis Boyle, 14170. Canadian Retro Things, 15050. Jim Rye, 18430. Buck Owens, 78,220. And the number one score this week belongs to Tasman with 99,960, coming in just below wrapping the game. Thanks everybody that played, and we'll see you again next week.
Didn't he wrap it a couple of
Yeah,
times?
I thought he did wrap it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wrapped it. He just didn't post those scores.
Because it wouldn't, it doesn't, that extra digit doesn't show on the high score screen.
No. He said that if he was going to post one of the wrapped scores, he'd post a video with it, but no need to. He got first place anyway.
There's no use, rubbing our face in it that he,
Oh,
was
I got
orders
20.
of magnitude better scores than the rest of us.
So you got 4,000. I got 24 million.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'm pretty sure he wrapped it twice on the Thursday.
Yeah,
show.
during the live stream, I think
Yeah.
he mentioned wrapped it twice.
Yeah. But hey, he didn't post the score, so it's not official. Ah!
Just a nasty rumor.
And Marco, since you suggested this game, how come I never saw your score up there?
I was busy this week, unfortunately, and I was going to post one last night, but I didn't. But I'm not.
What about
that great
last
at
week?
games.
It's been 2 weeks. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I know. I was playing this like a month ago, and I think I got 3,000 if I remember right. But anyway, I didn't do very well. But I loved the action though. What did everybody else think? Did they like the play of the game? I mean, as far as like the physics of it.
Once the bug fixes came out, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I never got a high enough score to actually trigger any of the bugs. So
There were bugs.
Yes.
For those who scored high enough.
Yeah.
And I got
There was a little private group set up between the original Spectrum author, Alan, Paris Rudd, who did the port to the CoCo, myself, Buck, I think, was in there, Tasman was in there, a couple others. And we eventually, going back and forth, figured out what was going on and got it fixed. There's one other little bit of bugs, I think, that can show up once you get to later levels with a lot of asteroids. And there's a private 6309 optimized version that seems to fix that. If you have a CoCo 3, you can run full double speed and it doesn't have a problem at all. But there were certain specific cases with the CoCo DV and the CoCo VGA because of the way they do their frame refreshes. A bit of a technical explanation. Basically, what Para did to speed up the game to be able to handle all the asteroids is then when the raster on the screen hits the bottom and is about to go back to top the V blank, he actually kicks in full double speed, RAM and ROM, which normally scrambles the screen on a CoCo 1 or 2 because it's too fast for the VDG and the SAM to handle. But he turns it on only enough until it's about to redraw the screen and shuts it back off. So you don't see any of that. It'll just speed up enough to catch it up. But when you get the maximum number of asteroids on the screen, especially a lot of the smaller ones at once, then it sometimes still falls behind. And the CoCo DV and the CoCo VGA basically take a scan of what the buffer's supposed to be and then redirects it, re-outputting it on a VGA display or whatever, HDMI display. And they don't know what to do when the timing goes, fast, slow on the same screen like that, because it throws the timing off as far as, how long it takes to do a refresh. So it's catching it in the middle and stuff. So it starts screwing it up and it doesn't quite display properly. But going into 639 native mode, which means you're not doing the double speed poke, seems to be enough of a speed gain because it gets to do with the entire frame, not just the B blank, seems to fix it for those. So anybody who's got a CoCo DV or a CoCo VJ and is trying to play and it's getting some weird glitches on it graphically, there is a version that will, I'm not sure if Alan's going to put it up for direct download, but there is a version that we can arrange to get you that will solve the problem if you have a 639.
And if you don't have a 6309, why not?
Yeah. The other option is a SAM doubler, but I don't think Brendan's selling that yet, is he? He's got a few people that have got it. It's like a Gimme X. There was problems with chips gone missing during COVID and stuff here. There's the SAM doubler, which requires, I think, static RAM and stuff like that, but that allows the full double speed at all times too. That does fix it. Ron Klein tested that and verified it.
Are they going to roll those modified versions into the standard download from HIO, or how do you go about getting
I
those?
don't know. Alan basically just wanted to make sure it worked on stock machines. He's not worried about a bunch of third-party upgrades done decades later. He wanted to get it running on the original, and the original hardware was having problems with, some of the earlier versions here, but they got fixed during the week.
Okay, cool.
So during the Game On Challenge, towards the end, I started to play this this past week, and I kept on running into the problem. And there was a fix, I think, Curtis, that you mentioned in the Discord, something about run out one, and to get it going. Because one of the issues I was having was I would start to play, and asteroids would start just multiplying around me.
That might have been an older version because the run at you wouldn't have even got it running if you hadn't.
I downloaded it that night.
Okay.
During the Discord, and I didn't know maybe if we wanted to, if this would be a good time. I got it all set up right here. I can share my screen and we can go through that whole steps that you were saying. There's a couple steps where you do the run at one.
Yeah, basically you mount this is for the CoCo SDC. So you mount the image first, which you can use the CoCo SDC Explorer, or you can do the drive command. And then you have to do run at one, which reboots the machine in stock disk basic 1.1, not SDC DOS, because SDC DOS does break compatibility with a few games. This isn't the only one. And then it still leaves that disk mounted, so you can still access it like a normal drive. And then you load the game and you exec it as a straight CoCo with disk basic.
Okay, so I mounted.
But you're the only one I've heard of that's actually still had problems since the new version's been released. Are you running on a CoCo DV or a CoCo VGA?
Just a CoCo 3 128 with CoCo STC in it. So
I wasn't aware of the CoCo 3 having any issues.
I can try it again here real quick while we're going.
Do you know what version you have? It's L is the latest release.
Let me do a dir here.
It'd be the last letter of the file name.
Oh, I lost my I mounted it. I'll have to check here. But you guys can continue on. I'll go ahead and try it again here real quick and see what happens.
Yeah, the 6309 optimized version is an M, which is not publicly released, but L's the public release that should fix pretty well most of the bugs.
Yeah, I have the L.
Okay.
So so I mounted the disk. And I should go ahead and mounted the drive one. So
when he runs out of letters, what is he going to do?
Special symbols.
When I'm doing a dir, how come
graphic blocks? That's what I'll do.
I mount the disk, and then when I escape out, I'm losing it. What am I doing wrong here?
Do you dir one? Because if you mount a drive one, it'll be on the second drive.
Okay. Well, I didn't do that the first time. I wonder what do I have to do a drive one to set my drive?
Yep. Otherwise, you're on drive 0.
Yep. Okay. There we go.
If you do a dir one, does it show up?
Yeah. If I did a dir one, it would show up. Yeah. Yep. So let me go ahead and do a load.
Yeah. You can either load Emmet with a :1 at the end, or you can do a drive one first and then just load Emmet normally. Either way will work.
And I can share my video if you guys want me to. If this is something that you guys want to do, someone else might get some
I was sure
value
David
from it.
Ladd was going to pop in here because this is all drive related.
Okay.
Yeah, shoot the
so
video or turn your
Okay,
camera.
you mentioned a floppy drive. What's up?
We're glad you're paying attention, Dave.
We've been talking about floppy drives for about 5 minutes, David. What's going on?
No, that's the CoCo STC. There's
That's
just
not a
a few
drive.
slight differences.
So is this where I would do that run at 1, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to reload it after that, right? This will
Yes.
reboot the machine. Yeah,
Okay.
you didn't need. Yeah, you don't bother doing the load until after the run at 1.
You can just
Oh, that's-
SDC DOS to mount the disk. Then you have to reboot and then load the program and exit.
Okay, so that's probably what I did wrong there then. I had the sequence all messed up then, so.
Yeah, somebody else in the Discord had the same issue. They were doing it the wrong way around. But if you've never done this before, I mean, it's not intuitive.
And now you'll know how to do it.
What I'd like to figure out, if somebody can, is what exactly is that game doing that is requiring raw disk basic? So it'd be nice to patch it so it just runs off the SDC, right off the Explorer. So
Well,
they have to do all this.
That may be more than one thing, depending on what weird hooks they're going for.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember, Ken, you probably know better than I do, because I only got a chance to play it the one last day there. Does it, when you do things like change the default mode, whether you're in hyperspace or shields, or you redefine the keys, I think it saves a copy of it with the new changes, doesn't it? Or does it reset every time you load?
I'm pretty sure it resets every time you load.
Oh, okay. So I thought maybe he's calling a disk routine directly to resave the program or something.
Okay, so this is all controlled by keyboard, isn't it? This one?
Yep. I can't remember what the
So-
default keys are. Ken can help you on that one.
I always remapped it. I always hit
I just
R and then
remapped
mapped
it
them.
immediately.
Oh,
I've
you did?
never used- I never
Me
figured out
too.
what the default keys were.
That way you don't have to worry what the default keys are.
So let's see here, where to remap the keys here are.
Or to
That what it is?
redefine, yeah.
Yep, there we go. So I'm just gonna use the right arrow, the left arrow.
Yep.
What do you guys do for thrust?
I used up arrow for thrust, but
I use down arrow for thrusts.
Okay.
And then
up-
your shield, use the up arrow because it's a lot. You use your shield a lot more than thrust.
Okay,
That makes sense.
then the hyper.
Up arrow. That's the same as shield.
Yep. Fire, I'm just gonna use my space bar.
Space bar. Yep.
And then press press Q
I
for
just
exit.
use Q for exit.
Yeah, that's what I use too, is Q.
There we are. Okay.
And then use
Press
your left and
spacebar.
right arrows to change mode.
And you can hit the enter key if you prefer the white background instead of green.
I prefer the black one.
The
This?
black background.
Oh, that's right. You can't do that.
It's a foreground joke.
Oh.
Neutroid could.
Okay, so to get started
Space bar to
here.
Okay,
space
three
bar fire.
There we are. Oops. So,
You died.
yep.
That's how asteroids always went for me.
That's
No.
pretty well my summary of my gameplay right there.
I usually start moving first and then fire at stuff.
And this is pretty much the example of the Thursday night show too.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's the game. Oh, I exploded. Hey, it's the game. Oh, I exploded.
Yep, pretty much.
Hey, but the
Unless
physics are great.
Tasman's there playing, then he just puts us all to shame.
Yeah, he just wraps it 2 or 3 times and gets bored.
All right.
you're
So,
up to
anyways,
date.
this is the asteroids game for those of you that did not try it out this time.
Yeah.
So
And for those of you who are into multiple machines, when you purchase this, which is $4.99 US off HIO,
$4.99, not $499.
yes, correct. You actually get both the ZX Spectrum, which has 3 different versions, I believe. There's one for the Spectrum Next and the Spectrum 2, and the CoCo and Dragon versions as well. So you'll get a whole bunch of machines covered.
Yep.
All in that one price.
Again, I thought the physics were pretty cool. I mean, it felt right. Zipping around.
Yeah. I haven't played the arcade version of Asteroids for many
Many
years,
years.
but it seemed to me to be very close to what it was back then.
Yep. I will mention too, as of this morning, I actually put up a game page entry on my CoCo Games page for this one with a direct link to his itch.io page if you did want to buy it and not have to type it all in from the chat.
So trivia time. Do you know what the UFOs are named?
UFOs?
Yeah, the UFOs in asteroids.
No, that's what I call them, just UFOs.
Bad Guy and Bad Guy 2.
Nothing I
Big
can,
and small UFO.
yeah, nothing I can repeat here.
The large one is Wally, and the small one is the Beaver.
Really?
Yes,
Do I want to know why they're named that?
because of the old TV show. Wally
It
and
doesn't date the Arthur at all.
Leave it to Beaver, you mean?
Yeah.
Leave it to Beaver.
So I don't see your problem happening. So I guess it was just the
Yep.
direction.
Nope. That resolved it. Thank you. Yep. I mean, I can go in and if you guys want to see what it was doing, I can show you the bug, but it was kind of quite weird.
Yeah, no, I'll have to ask Para exactly what he's doing that might be causing an incompatibility between this basic and the STC DOS, because that doesn't show up too often. There's a few other programs that do that. I know, Nick, we encountered a few of them.
And with the interrupts?
No, not usually interrupts, because I mean, all CoCo 3 games pretty well use interrupts, so none of them really required. I think it's more if it's disk IO or direct calls to basic ROM somewhere, usually is what causes it. Because STC DOS has so many extra features and commands added in that, or change commands, that basically the code's not in the same spot anymore.
So this seems very playable. Just reminds me very much of the arcade. So
Yeah, I like I mentioned on the page entry I did for it. I think it's closer to the arcade than Star Blaster. I still like Star Blaster too, because it kind of does the Asteroids Deluxe with the shields as well. I mean, there's obviously a 40-year difference between when they were actually programmed and released, but 42 actually in this case. They're both really well done, to be honest. But this one, if you want as close to the arcade as you can, this is it. Except for Nick, was it Mark that was doing the Asteroids transcode for the CoCo 3? But he never finished?
Yeah, but that was a while back, and I don't think he ever finished it.
Yeah, because he was actually going to do it in 640 by 225. So basically the highest res the CoCo 3 can do to make it look as close to vector as possible. I would really like to see that, because he was actually transcoding it. But
yeah, it'd be a wider screen, and you certainly don't get that ugly green border around the screen either.
I find that green border soothing.
yes, it calms you down, Nick. You just got to learn to live with it.
If he did a CoCo 3 version that could just turn that off, I'd like
Then
it.
you get all mad and ragey when you die a lot, because that
Well-
calming green is not there anymore.
And I died a lot in this game, and I
Yep.
never lost my temper once.
there we go. I switched it to the black and white to.
Oh no, he wants it
You know.
black. He doesn't want a border at all.
You can fix that border with duct tape.
Well, yeah, that's one way to do it. But on the CoCo 3, you can turn that off.
Yeah, if you set it up as a gimme 256 by 192
Yeah,
instead of
you
a
can just,
VDG style.
yeah. Instead of setting up a VDG mode.
I know.
you
I'm
set
so
up-
used to having that border. It kind of feels wrong without it.
It
to
does,
be
yeah,
honest.
it's just it doesn't look right. It's not a CoCo game if it doesn't have the
Yeah.
border.
That's how you
Well,
identify a CoCo game, honestly.
That's true, but yeah, to me, that's always looked wrong.
I always picture, like myself personally, the CoCo 3 is when you don't see the border, because then you're kicking in like the high res with more colors anyway. It never bothered me any, but I understand, because you want it to look like an arcade game, not.
It would look very much like the arcade one then if it was a
Yeah.
black border as well.
Well, you
I mean, the
just
black
take a
border doesn't help
Sharpie,
Neutroid, so it's not always solving anything anyway. So
Take a Sharpie and draw little pictures over the border, and then it'll look like a bezel around a arcade game.
I think Patrick's idea is probably the best. Cut out with black cardboard, a big sheet of black cardboard, cut out the hole and stick it on your screen. Then you'll never see that border.
and then you can white out the rest of the screen, and then you won't see it at all.
Nick, did Model 1, TRS 80, that didn't really have a border, did it?
No, it was always black.
So is that why, you're used to that first?
No,
and then when you went to
well,
CoCo, it had this offensive
even
border.
in the arcades, most games are all black. You don't have a bright white or green background. It's just the CoCo that does that. Everything else turns it
Yeah,
off.
there's a few games it specifically does work on, like skiing is
Oh,
one,
yeah.
because you're in a
It depends.
snow white spot, and basically it just looks like the horizon, the clouds, and the ground run together.
Yeah.
So it's one big white screen with poles and sticks on the middle. But
generally, a black, black border is what's
I mean,
used.
some games like when they like create a screen, like a view screen with a little bit of a console or something with controls and stuff, and they actually made it so white was the background of the console, so it actually fits and it looks like it's part of the game. Like Project Nebula kind of does that as an example. But I understand. But to me, it's part of the unique CoCo-ness. It's how you can tell a CoCo or Dragon game pretty well right off the bat.
No, well, you can tell anything that uses a 6847.
Yeah, like an Acorn or.
Yeah, they all do that as well. Yeah.
That's a good game. If you guys are Asteroids fans and you want as close to the arcade as you can get with both Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe, Alan, who programmed this originally on the Spectrum in 2021, he did a clean room implementation, but he tried to get it as close as he could. He did change the saucers, the ship shapes, and a few other things to be a bit more unique. But other than that, it's probably the closest clone I know of.
All right, here's a question. Modern computers have all these really cool graphics now, and explosions have, which in space you don't have any flames, but do they have a newer version of this that is actually asteroid looking, going by in a spaceship with lasers shooting out that looks like lasers instead of
I've seen stuff where they've tried to do something like that, but honestly, that's never gone over well because this is such a classic game.
Yeah. The on the Amiga, they got a game called what's it called? Stardust, which is an asteroid, but it's got the flashy graphics, but it's still asteroids like this.
Yeah, and it's not that, at least from my understanding, it's not that popular because it doesn't remind you of the original arcade, and that's what you're playing it for.
It's a pretty good game. It's quite well done. It's nice graphics, but
it's not asteroids. It feels cartoony to me.
I don't know about that, but
does the Vectrex have this?
They have a clone, don't they? It's not actually called asteroid. I don't think it's officially licensed, but yeah, they do.
Yeah, well, they have an asteroids as well. Yeah,
because this is right up the alley, right?
It's very
well. Yeah, it's the exact same technology the original arcade game used.
Yep,
vector beam. And we've got multiple clones that are kind of close. We've got Star Blaster, we've got Asteroids RX, we've got Microbes / Color Meteoroids, depending on what era you picked it up at. So we get a few of them, but they're all trying to look like a 2-color, just like the original arcade. I don't know if any colored was.
Wasn't there a version in the arcades that also the asteroids spun as well?
Deluxe, I think they spun, not the original Asteroids.
Yeah.
And this is kind of both, because when you enable the shield mode, that's kind of Asteroids Deluxe, same as Star Blaster, but neither Star Blaster nor Asteroids RX rotate the asteroids. It's just a bunch of extra time or extra memory, I guess, because you could pre-figure out the vectors and stuff.
So from a gameplay, I remember back in the day when I'd be actually at the arcade, some guys preferred to be moving. Where
you did the hunting, as they call it. You'd have one little asteroid left and you'd fly kind of parallel with it, but you keep moving so the little saucer can't track you and kill you instantly. And you could just, once you get good at it, you can go forever. I think that's what Tasman does, isn't it?
Right. As long as you don't kill that last little asteroid. It's your great,
Yeah, because if you do it by accident, then all of a sudden all the big ones suddenly show up and you're flying.
You're still going 1,000 miles an hour.
Well, it's interesting that when you blow up an asteroid, that parts of it will kill you.
Just like real life.
Yeah. Well, when they did that test to try to deflect that asteroid, it ended up creating a debris stream that's like huge, and they're wondering like if an asteroid got close to Earth and they did that. Yeah, wouldn't one be one big hit?
Make it worse.
Traded for 100 small hits all over the world. It might actually be worse.
Be quite a show in the sky.
Well, it'd be more of a show in the sky because instead of one big bright burst of one big asteroid, you'd have a whole bunch of them. It'd be like a meteor shower.
Yeah, that would not end even in the daytime.
Yeah. I think it, like, getting a bit off topic, and I'm just going to do it briefly. If we did have to deflect an asteroid, I think is what we have to do for Earth. You can't just try to hit it and blow it up. You have to like land something and then thrust in a certain direction or steer it out of the way with a little bit of microgravity or something.
Use a giant baseball bat.
As long as it has lettering on the side.
Asteroids RX, definitely, if you are a fan of asteroids, is a game worth picking up. Because, it really does remind you of the old game. And the other game that we played this week was Balloon Fire. So that is basically just a shooting game where you're a cross or an arrow thing at the top of the screen, and you're got to shoot all the balloons as they're floating up towards you. Any of them get past you, it kills you.
The name doesn't fit together very well.
Balloon Fire?
Yeah.
There's balloons and you fire at them.
Yeah, balloons and fire don't mix.
And that one there was programmed by somebody in the community, wasn't it? Ron or
yeah?
Terry Steen.
Terry. Yep.
Terry Steen. Yeah. So we've had Terry Steen on the show before. We've discussed his games with him, and we've even shown examples of this game before. We just haven't actually done it as an official Game On Challenge game. So,
quick question for Ken and Sloopy: have either you tried to reach out to Terry to see, like, next week's the cutoff for scores for the Balloon Fire game? Has either of you tried approaching Terry to see if he'll come on to discuss the game with us?
I'm
I
friends
know.
with him
No,
too.
I have
can
not.
ask him.
Yeah, sure. Ask him.
Okay.
Because I honestly think from playing it, the game becomes impossible because it starts spreading the balloons
does.
out
It
at a
gets
certain speed too
so
far apart.
fast.
And I'm wondering if he kind of realized that or he did that on purpose.
Maybe he's got a God mode or something.
Because you can't move fast enough to get between the two, and as soon as it hits the top of the screen, you die. So
Yeah, when you get one on one side of the screen, one on the other side of the screen, as soon as you get, it starts every time you die, it starts out slower. But by the time you get about 2,000 points, they're going so fast that you can't get from one side of the screen to the other.
Yeah.
And a few of us have seen when you hit about 8,000, there's this
There's a
slowdown.
glitch.
yeah, weird slowdown, at least in VCC.
I
It's,
noticed
I guess
it too.
it's on real hardware too.
I know it's
I've
on
heard.
real hardware, and what I'm kind of wondering is, because one of the strategies that I've been using is kind of doing repeated fire as I move back and forth.
Yeah,
I've been trying to stay in the middle, and then I just kind of, whenever I'm moving, I'm always shooting. And it seems like if I shoot a lot, because I've had it happen a couple times now, even at 2,000 and 4,000 points, I get this slowdown for a little bit. And I'm kind of wondering if I don't know what the relationship between shooting is, but it just kind of felt to me like if I was shooting a lot more than other times, that it would, that's when the slowdown would happen. So I'm not sure.
Do you have electric car charging?
Electric charging? No.
I wonder what it's written in. I wonder if it's a compile basic program.
No, it's written in assembly.
It is assembly.
But I'm guessing he doesn't have backgrounds processing for sound. It's actually takes over the CPU when he's doing sound effects. If you're firing a lot and you're getting the little fire sounds, it might be slowing it down, just trying to play all the little bits every time you fire.
I mean, I wasn't firing a lot the times that I've had it slow down on me. I wasn't firing a lot. It just all of a sudden would go into
We
this
can always
mode where
invite Terry on and ask him.
Yeah. So maybe for next week. Anyways, so those were the games this week. Sloopy, are you here? Yes, Sloopy. Well, Sloopy, I might be sleeping. Are you awake,
Didn't hang
Sloopy?
on.
Yeah, he might be busy at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Was there any
So
tips
I
or
will-
tricks for the Asteroids
Oh.
RX from anybody, I guess, is the first question. Before we get
Don't
into the
just sit in the
live.
middle of the screen and spin around and shoot like I did when I was a kid. Score very high.
Funny, yeah.
Yeah, just hold down the right arrow and just tap fire as fast. No, that never worked for me either. I did try that.
That is how I used to play it as a kid, though.
Question, where do you get that game from, the Asteroids game?
We posted the link in the
there's-
chat, and also if you go to my site, the game entry for it has the direct link to the itch.io page. You can purchase it for $4.99.
Purchased
All right.
it. I posted both links, both the direct one and the one to Curtis's page.
Cool. Has anyone done Tempest yet?
Aside from Storm by Computerware, not that I'm aware of.
Hmm.
That's a Semi-Graphics 24 clone of Tempest.
Storm?
Yeah. It's on the archive.
Cool, thanks.
All right. Well, I will attempt a slideshow of the live game on challenge or playthrough from Thursday night. So we had a few people playing. So I think up to 6 at one point.
I think 7 at one.
7 at one point, maybe. I don't know.
And
I
apparently
didn't...
playing Seamus by the looks of the screen.
Yeah, that was me.
Isn't Seamus the one that has, I think, a bad sector for the copy protection?
Depending on the version, if you have the Radio Shack version, yes, I believe that is true. I don't think the original Synapse version did. And the credit screen's a little bit different, so you can tell the difference between the two.
Well, yeah, because I always remember trying to back up my original one that I got from Radio Shack and could never do it.
We'll ignore the fact that I was playing Seamus, and we got a couple of people playing Asteroids and a couple of people playing Balloon Fire. So, yeah, so it was a good time to be had. There's a bunch of us there. Just generally goofing off, playing video games, which is what we do every Thursday night. So if you're not showing up for that, why not? It's a fun time.
Yeah, and as you demonstrated, you don't have to play the featured games. You just basically, if you can play any CoCo game.
Yep.
We won't, castrate you or anything like that. So,
but it's got to be a CoCo game, or an MC10 game, or a Dragon game.
And it can't be Neutroid because Neutroid's just horrible.
Yeah.
Well, you forgot the Brazilian machines.
Oh, CB400 is a sample from Korea. That one too.
It's got to be within the family.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, that's better. That's better. That's what I was pushing for.
The hardware cousins, as we mentioned during the intro to the show.
Remember back in the early days, there were a couple of discs you can get that had a whole bunch of different programs on it that would allow you to copy discs and like disc to tape and all these different ones.
Yeah, there's one for copy protection too.
Yeah.
Prickly Pear had one, and OmniClone was one.
Right. Were there any that were really successful? Because it seems to me that I've tried different ones on these discs, and I could never get.
I think the most robust one for that, because you're right, it worked on some, it didn't work on others. I think is Carl England's Defeater, and he's still around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got some updates year or two back, if I remember right.
Yeah. Carl just did some patches to it there to handle some bigger disc sizes and stuff. So yeah, that'd be the one to get.
I know that Sportswear came out with a disc that would encrypt something to where you can make a program and then have it so that when you produced it, it would not be copyable. But,
yeah, there's a lot. DICOM did that. Computerware had one where if you tried to copy it, and it would corrupt the disk and rewrite the directory. So when you did it said, buy your own, buy your own, buy your own.
Okay, now getting back to the Game On Challenge.
Yes.
Like herding cats here today.
Yep.
So that's the Thursday night show, happens at 8:00 Eastern time. So it's in the Discord channel.
5 p.m. in Pacific time.
Yep. Show up, have some fun, play some games, or just hang out and talk. There's people that come in there and just hang out to chat with everybody. So,
or play the wrong games like I did a month ago by playing
there you go.
RX.
But you were playing a CoCo game, so it's okay. All right, and so for one more week, we are playing Balloon Fire. And for the next 2 weeks, we are playing this game. If anybody recognizes it.
Oh, it's a Pengo clone. I'm trying to remember which one this is. Is that Where Else Mutants?
Yes. A game that's not on Curtis's site.
Oh, there's about 900 games that aren't on my site yet, so don't worry about that.
No, I'm just mentioning it so that I can give you more work this week.
Depending on real work, that might not be happening.
So it's a Pengo clone game, so you just have to push boxes and kill the bad guys.
How many Pengo games were there on the CoCo?
Pengon by Spectral, Where Else Mutants from Tom Mix. There was one in Rainbow Magazine that actually is not too bad for the CoCo 3. There's another one on the Dragon. I can't remember the name of it. So there's at least 4 that I know of.
All right. So is this black and white on the CoCo 3? With RGB?
Not on composite.
With RGB, it would be.
Okay.
Yeah, but that one I think cleanly patches it. I don't think it uses the kind of mixed mode where you can do the artifacting and the fine detail. So I think if you ran it through RGB patch by Spectral Associates, that would probably fix it in this case.
There appears to be a patch version for the CoCo 3 on the archive already.
Oh, is there already? Okay.
Good to know.
Franklin Harris in the chat says it's like herding cats every week. What are you talking about?
Yep. All right, so those are the games. That's the Game On Challenge for this week.
Actually,
And,
there's a question for you, Ken, here, since you're familiar
Okay.
with Warehouse Mutants, and obviously I'm not because it's on my site. 60's asking, can you shake the border? It seemed that most are the thing that most clones lacked from the arcade game.
I don't believe you can, but I've never played the actual game, so I didn't know you could shake the border.
Yeah, when you press up against the border, it does a bit of a shake effect.
Well, now I'll have to try it because I honestly can't say that I've never tried it because I've never thought of doing that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. If I did play the actual arcade game, it was only like once or twice because not many arcades here had it. And it wasn't a game I was that interested in by that time. I didn't know you could do that either.
Did I miss anything?
Yeah, you missed
Just your
your whole
cue.
segment. Yeah, you
At
missed
the
your cue.
Neutroid session, you missed the hour
We
on
talked
the
about
Neutroid
Neutroid for
session.
like the last half hour.
Can we do it again?
It's not true because otherwise Nick's
Watch it
icon there would suddenly change to a big smile on his face. So,
Well, I know it's not true because you're still here and you're not on homicidal rage. No,
That cocoa green border strikes again.
sorry, I had a phone call. Someone was interested in buying my van.
That's okay. Just telling everybody to make sure you come out for Thursday night's shows. And by the way, I'm gone for the next couple of weeks, so all of your hate mail goes to Sloopy.
I've just been CCing you both on it all the time anyway. So it's
So we got Neutroid for the next 4 weeks, is it?
Yeah, Nick, is the new Neutroid ready?
Yeah.
I've got a trash can and EOU already ready for it. So yeah.
Did you announce the new game or did I miss that
Not
too?
yet.
I announced the new game, yes.
Oh yes, that we did.
Anything good?
Warehouse
Color
Mutants.
scripts it.
Ooh.
2.
I'm leaving Color Scripts it for you, so we're doing Warehouse Mutants.
Yeah, a Pengo clone if you're not familiar with it.
What
Have
about
we ever done an adventure game or?
what happened to the game we talked about the other day?
That was the game we talked about the other day.
Oh, okay. I forget. I mean, that was yesterday. I can't even remember 10 minutes ago. So
It was 2 days ago.
Nick was bringing up that, we're talking about possibly adding like a third game at some time, like as an adventure game, because that doesn't really go well for a high score challenge type thing. I don't know. Have you guys discussed anything further on that at all? or-
Not really. But actually,
Okay.
if you play the Sierra games, they do have scores on them. So
True. A lot of adventure games do. You score when you get all your treasures, et cetera, too. So
yeah,
Some
But
Infocom games do as
that
well.
would probably be better for the for where you've got a few people all at once and they can all play
crowdsource it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I would probably do it when Neutroid's on, so then people have something to actually do.
yeah. I was
Like
actually
the-
thinking that better to do that when it's not summertime and people can spend adventure games. You have to actually put some time.
Yeah, you have to
into.
commit a lot of time. So
And yeah, maybe
So-
adventure game is the game of the month rather than of the
yeah,
week.
I agree with that. That was my suggestion as well.
yeah,
That's not a
Ken and I haven't been able to talk much because he's been busy planning to go to that land where they have the land of cooking oil. What's it called?
yeah. He's taking a
Greece.
vacation to the surface of the sun, from what I've heard. So
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I'm off to Greece.
I knew it was a cooking oil of some type.
And you're going to take a grease weasel with you?
Ah.
is it expected to cool down by the time you get there, Ken, or is it still
It's
supposed to
actually-
be 40 plus the whole time?
Not yeah, it's only supposed to be like 33 or 34 degrees when I get there.
Oh, that's actually quite a drop. That's 10 degrees down from what it was. So
Yeah.
I will continue to have a love affair with Amanda here.
Oh yeah, he's what's his name at hosted live stream. I'm blanking on his name.
A man, an air conditioner.
The company that makes air conditioners. Oh my God!
Johnson and Johnson. What?
No one gets a joke.
I got it.
I'm still waiting for the joke.
You missed it. Yeah, Missy thinks
We tell jokes on here.
Anna.
This is a serious show. There is no room for jokes on this show.
Obvious.
This show is a joke.
There you go.
Nick, thank you.
Nailed it.
That is the correct one. Is the show is the joke.
Some people.
Anyway, so Ken, you're off for 2 weeks.
3. Well, technically 3 because the day that the third Saturday, that's the day I'm actually traveling back here.
Okay, and you're still in Ontario for a period of time after that.
Yeah, I got to go to VCF next month. So.
Oh yeah,
Or
you're already
in
halfway there.
September.
So. Okay, so for next week then, it's going to be both the added new game Warehouse Mutants plus Terry Steen's Balloon Fire. Hopefully someone can get a hold of Terry and see if he can come on and discuss why the game gets impossible near 8,000-9,000 points.
And Ron was going to get a hold of him.
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, that's that for that. So I don't know. Do we want to, after that extreme version of herding cats, do we need a commercial break or should we go straight into the Game On News?
I've got more Game On News than we've had the last few weeks, so I would say do the commercial break first.
Excellent, because I need coffee.
Hi, I'm John.
And I'm Aaron of the CoCo Show.
And you're watching or listening to the CoCo Nation, the live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer and its cousins.
All hail the CoCo Nation.
In a world where RGB produces black and white video, one cable can make a difference. Switcheroo. CoCo3SCARTcable.com.
G'day from the land down under, where toilets flush backwards and thongs are a respectable form of casual footwear. I am Nick Morentes and I have been developing games for the CoCo for over 35 years. Welcome to the CoCo Nation, the interactive live video talk show for all enthusiasts of the CoCo family of computers.
Hi, I'm Al Curtis Boyle. And I'm Ken Waters of Canadian Retro Things. And you're watching the CoCo Nation Show.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the Tandy Color Computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
Which game is Terry Steen's?
Balloon Fire.
Balloon Fire.
Okay.
All right, Curtis, you're up. There you go.
Okay. You guys are seeing that? Green, lovely, calming green screen.
Yep. Oh, green.
Oh, yes.
All we need is a green floppy drive, and David will be in heaven.
I got green floppies.
Oh, that could
Actually,
be
I got a few of
range
those too.
Curtis. There's some interesting paints out there.
Anyway, okay, so first up, we got a couple of Jim Gary games here for the MC10. So the first one here, actually both of these in this case here are actually games that Tandy originally sold as the micro games pack. It was a collection of basic games, 4K, sold on cassette. So what Jim has done here is he's actually gone through and improved both of them. So the first one up here is Pong. And this one originally came out from Tandy in 1983, same year that the actual MC10 itself was released. He's got a special keyboard ML routine by Greg Dion, the guy who does the MC10 basic compiler, that allows both players to move their paddles at the same time. Because the original kind of used the in-key thing where basically each player, it basically shut one player off and then, next guy moved and then back to the first one. And now it's simultaneous play. And it's a little bit enhanced speed-wise. He's done some optimization in basic, using a lot of the basic tricks that Alan Huffman's been blogging about. So I can't remember what speed the original ran, but apparently this is faster. But both players can actually simultaneously move, which the original version did not support. Okay, there's that one available. And then the second one that he did off that same cassette thing, and by the way, I mentioned these are 4K, as he's shown here, free memory. So this one here is also one, but this is Breakout. And he did the adding speed ups. He added a high score, that wasn't in the original, and performance rating. And he also patched it, so now this will work with the joypad controller as well and still fit in 4K. So he's actually enhanced it a fair bit from the original. There's the entire listing with his additions. Now, for those of you on the panel that actually have MC10s, have any of you guys gotten the joypad? I was wondering we should do a review of it at some point. I don't have an MC10, so I can't.
With the Pi key?
What was that?
Are you talking about with the Pi key, where you get the joystick, the Atari joystick ports that emulate the keypad?
I don't know, honestly. Okay. I just know Jim has been changing a lot of his games to support the joypad, as he calls it. I don't have an MC10, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm on that's on the list at some point here very soon. I just need to actually box everything up and ship it to Brendan.
Okay. Do you know who he manufactures the joypad thing for it? Is it Brendan, or does Jim do that himself? Or
well, the Pi key that has the Atari ports on it, Brendan makes.
Okay. So I wonder which one he's using. Is he mentioned here? No, he just says the joypad controller. Jim, if you happen to be in the chat, or if you catch this later, just maybe email me and just give me some details on that. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing or these two different products.
Yeah, because I picked up Brendan's package at CoCo Fest because I forgot to bring my MC10 along with me, and that's one of my projects is to get that assembled and installed.
Yeah, and does his one actually simulate certain specific keys to duplicate what what most controls are for MC10 games?
Yep. Through the menu, then yeah, you can set it up so that way when you're moving the joystick, it's the MC10 thinks you're hitting the keyboard.
And you can define which keys, or is there a standard on the MC10 as far as directional keys?
Well, like if you had a game that required 2 keys to be used, then you can say the left and the right are those keys. So you don't have to change the game. The game will just work.
Okay. Okay. Next up, Jim Mullis, who just joined our Discord recently, was a new update video to his Superpowers game, which is based on the DC Comics characters and the Saturday morning cartoon of the same name, that he's doing in BASIC along with the use of GraphExpress by Jeff Steidel and Sundog Systems. And he's got a list of notes here about what all he's changed. I won't read them all here. He's done some changes to the actual gameplay itself, just to add some enhancements to what the game eventually is supposed to be doing. He's now using the show fast command in GraphExpress to speed up the sprite animation. It forgoes syncing the 60 Hz interrupt, but needs additional memory because now it has a triple buffer and adds just a little bit of flicker. And he was trying to figure out a way to combine CBasic 3, which is a basic compiler by Circomp, I believe. Same guys who did Window Master, to work with GraphExpress, because GraphExpress takes a fair bit of room in your 32K map where BASIC is. I think it reserves some 20,000 right to the end of 32K RAM. So that's a good sized chunk of like 12K gone for your BASIC program. And he was trying to figure out some ways to get around that. Now, because it's showing a fair bit of different things here, I'm not going to quite play the whole thing, but I'll play a fairly substantial amount, just so people can kind of see where he's at. And you hear some popping. I think it's because he recorded with XOR, and I know I'm getting that popping issue with XOR too. There he talks a little splash screen here, explaining that he's using GraphExpress, a BMP viewer by Stuart Whisk Elephant, and of course he's using DC characters. And he mentioned the game will not be for commercial use. No copyright infringement is intended, because he's using a fair number of characters that are copyrighted. Sound coming through too?
Yeah.
Is there a splash screen?
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Excelsior. Oh, wait, wrong company.
Not anymore. I think they've all cross-licensed everything at each other.
And that was for the audio listeners. It just showed a list of the DC characters that are supported in the game. I think there's 16 of them, and you get to pick which one. I think he's only got the Superman graphics done right now, so that's who we picked. And here's the loading progress bar screen with a bit of description of what you're supposed to be doing in the game. Sort of like ghost things that are coming in into an ancient Egypt exhibit. I'll just quote a little bit. His hand momentarily becomes solid as he grabs the museum's most prized exhibit, the jeweled necklace of Amun. And here you start level 1 in Midway City. But the graphics actually for the characters are quite detailed. Like the Superman actually looks pretty good. You can see like the musculature and shading and stuff too. So it looks pretty good. Now it's a little bit slow, and it is faster than it was the previous demo he released. But you're once again, this is written in BASIC using the GraphExpress library to speed things up. And that I don't know if that's the slight flicker he's talking about there. I think that might be the capture. But here he's using his heat vision and stuff, and he can fly, so he's got something animated, the cape and stuff. So all this stuff's been added since the last demo he did. And the bad guy is firing bullets at him. And but full background masking and stuff too, which you often don't see in BASIC games, since we don't actually have a real sprite hardware. And doing the masking in BASIC itself with get put buffers is a little slow. Anyway, that's about enough as I'll play there. But he's also asking for any tips and tricks, because he was hoping to maybe use the CBasic 3 compiler. I think Wasatchaware also did a ML basic compiler for the CoCo 3 as well. I took a brief look at the manual when I had a little bit of time. I didn't get a chance to check it extensively, so I don't know if anybody here's used the CBasic 3 compiler. But is there an option for it to compile as position-independent code? Because if that's the case, then you should be able to compile little routines or something as ML, and then just adjust the clear statement to shift it up to where you got room, and you should be able to throw it in there and actually be able to call it in the main basic program and call GraphExpress and call that routine. So I don't know if it has that capability. Maybe it's all fixed address type stuff. I have no idea. I've never really used the CBasic 3 compiler. Has anybody here on the panel used any of the CoCo 3 basic compilers? Much at all?
Anybody?
Big no. I know Nick doesn't, because he just writes assembly. perfectly with no errors. So he doesn't
That's
have to
right,
worry about it.
bug free. Yeah. And one day I'll see a bug. Then I'll know what you're talking about.
Now, 60's mentioning someone can draw. Yeah, the shapes are quite well done. I don't know if he digitized those from somewhere or if he's drawn them himself on a PC and imported them using that BMP importer. I will also mention for Tier City Retro Programming, the YouTube channel that's doing a couple games like that, Tales of Suburban stuff here. Jim's actually the main other guy besides myself that does comments on his videos and gives him suggestions stuff too. And we're still trying to get a hold of him to get him on the show and also to join our Discord because he always has questions and he keeps saying like the CoCo can't do this and the CoCo can't do that. And it's like, yeah, you can. It's just not through Tandy maybe, but there's a lot of third-party stuff that you can get access to. But we'll see if we can get that going. Anyway, it looks really good. I'm glad he's got it a bit sped up. The graphics look nice and detailed. He's got some nice little animations in there. Game's definitely progressing. He's definitely hitting that memory wall though with Graphics Express because it eats a pretty big chunk of RAM. Next up, I think Nick, you're the one who found this one.
Okay.
Episode 3, I don't even remember the series is called, The 80s Home Computer Invasion, which actually covers a bunch of machines, mostly in the UK that came out. So that covers some American machines that came out there as well, like the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64, etc. But it was basically kind of a go-through game-oriented, definitely, of the various 8-bit machines that came out in the early 80s in the UK, and one of them was the Dragon. So I'll just play a quick little clip of that. You can watch the whole thing because it kind of goes in chronological order from 1980. So it covers like the ZX80, then the ZX81, and the Spectrum, the C64, the VIC-20, etc. This is the video I think we've shown before where they're interviewing some of the people at the actual Dragon headquarters in Swansea.
So when are shopkeepers going to be able to start taking delivery of Dragons again?
Oh, shopkeepers are receiving deliveries at the moment. The only thing that I'm not accepting now are orders guaranteed for delivery prior to Christmas because those orders are already in.
What do you see as the advantages your computers have over their rivals?
We see it as an easy machine with plenty of space available in the form of its 32K RAM, a number of useful facilities like the graphics and the sound, and a very simple BASIC, which is a worldwide standard, which means that they can access software from other sources quite easily.
What do you think we need to do to keep ahead in this field?
Keep an opinion of what the customer really wishes to buy, and obviously there is a need to keep redesigning and bringing new discoveries or new modifications into the machine as frequently as possible.
So then after that, because on the other computers that are mentioned on here, he usually has
and Dragon 64 are home computers that were built in the 1980s.
He usually has like ads, like commercial TV commercials, stuff that were published. But I've never seen an actual Dragon 32 advertisement that would have been on TV. And 60, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I don't think there was one.
They were also situated.
They were advertised in magazines mostly.
And also in the US market by Tano of New Orleans, Louisiana. The model numbers reflect the primary difference between the two machines.
This game does good use of the
kilobytes of RAM, respectively.
3 colors.
Dragon Data introduced the Dragon 32.
But then they do silly things like this.
Wow.
Resolution display modes,
went too far.
but limited graphics.
Which is the CoCo artifacted version of Donkey King. That's not at all what it looked like in an actual Dragon.
No.
So a few mistakes.
Just as well he did show that.
Yeah, this looks a lot better than the black and white one. Yeah. Now, 60's mentioning in the chat here, he said the only Dragon ad I ever saw was the Spanish Eurohard one with the Smash robots on TV. So it looks like the original Dragon Data in Port Talbot and Swansea did not do TV commercials, just magazine ads. And then when it moved to Spain, it sounds like that's when they actually did some TV commercials. 60 says we played in black and white and we liked it.
That's what I used to do.
Excuse me, can I interrupt for a minute, please?
Yep.
All right. Now, everyone knows that I do things more than just the CoCo, and among other things. And if you can make me big for a second.
Oh, you want me to stop sharing?
There's Joe.
Hey guys,
This is Chris from Retro Tech Chris,
how's it going?
and he is although he's not into the CoCo himself, he mostly gets into old PC stuff.
Yeah,
He pushes the CoCo Nation show quite a bit.
absolutely. Anytime I can.
All
Well,
right.
thank you very much for that.
Of course. It's an honor to be on here with you for a minute.
I'm surprised you stay awake long enough to promote us if you're watching us.
Might change your mind after today.
No, he's a good front man for us because he doesn't watch the show.
Oh, there you go.
I do have a tandy or two.
So he can say how great the show is and he's like a computer salesman. He doesn't know that he's lying.
Not technically lying. Yeah.
I do watch from time to time. I do pop in, but I am pretty much a one-trick pony with my IBM PC compatibles and a stray Nabu that showed up at the house.
Now, does that include the Tandy 1000s? Just out of curiosity.
I've got a Tandy 1000 HX and SX. Yes, or a TX,
Okay.
not an SX, a TX. Yeah, love them. Great machines. Yeah.
So you see, people of different cultures can get along.
Oh, come on.
Hey, I hope he's got one of the smartwatch modules for the Tandy 1000.
Yeah, I got a smartwatch plus from Derek Osborne, Cybernetic Systems. Great stuff. Yeah. Yep.
So
sure do. Absolutely. Actually, both Tandys have one.
Now, are you guys both going to be at VCF Midwest?
Absolutely. Yeah, all booked and ready to go. So hopefully some of you guys will be there too. We'll get to catch up and chat.
Oh, I'm planning on being there if possible.
Okay.
David Ladd's
David
going,
Ladd. Okay.
Curtis.
Okay.
Me? Yeah, I won't be able to make Midwest. Ken will though.
Oh, Ken. Yeah. Ken, I just saw you got back from Boat Fest. I plan to do that next year. So yeah.
Yep, I'll be going too.
Oh, awesome. Okay, fantastic.
Well, there's a reason not to go. The Grant's going. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
Well, I guess
Well,
I
I'm
can
going
spend the
too.
weekend avoiding Grant.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what? When you hang out with me, it's a true party. When you hang out with Curtis, it's a boring fest. That's why everybody falls asleep with him.
Yeah, that's why I prefer to hang out with Grant because he doesn't mention OS 9 every third sentence.
I don't either. I mentioned Nitrous 9 every 10 seconds. That's what I do.
So
cool.
All
There's a difference.
Good to see everybody. I got my family waiting in the car. We're just in a little PS2 Model 30 drop off here. So then heading up to a little further north. So
yeah, it's work. I'm not going PC.
It's work, honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Hey, well, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, great to see you. all.
Hey, what's his YouTube channel?
Retro Tech Chris. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Very cool. All righty.
All right.
See you guys.
Okay. See you.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, back to Curtis.
Yeah. So anyway, it goes through a couple of games, a couple of pretty decent ones, some cross-platform ones like the Chucky Egg you saw earlier on, a few, little mistakes there of using the CoCo artifacted ones, which I guess technically would run on a Tano Dragon, as some people have mentioned, or Tano. But yeah, I mean, it's one they said, did well the first year or two and didn't do too well after that.
It would work if you had a Tano Dragon.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, okay, I've got to listen.
Yeah. I know it's a bit of a strain there because you're busy sucking all your time and brain power out doing Neutroid for the 17th time now? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a pretty good video you found there. So how'd you stumble there? Have you watched the previous 2 episodes of this? I'm just wondering, did you cover the 70s before this, or what? I didn't get a chance to check the channel because I've been busy with work this week.
I haven't watched any other episode, no.
Okay. Okay, so on the next one, this was posted as a link from the Dragon group in Facebook. You'll see this is the Amiga Forever page. But this is a game Christopher Lee's posted about, and what he's doing is he's writing another text adventure game based on the Infocom engine. Now, we had another guy on, I can't remember if it's the same guy or not, a year or two ago that had created another Infocom game that was cross-platform, and it sold everywhere from digital download only all the way up to a professionally full-color box art and, on floppy disk and the whole bit. So this is a new one he's planning on making here that's going to be called the Forgotten Pyramid. And he was just asking like what platforms are interested in to make, it worth his while to create, the special discs and boxes, et cetera, for actually manufacturing it. He does have plans, as he mentions here. It will run on the Amiga, the VIC-20, if you have the full 35K RAM, C64, C128, the PET, the Plus4, the BBC Micro, Apple II, Atari 8-bits, Atari ST, Classic Macintosh, MS-DOS, Windows, MSX1, MSX2, SAM Coupe, ZX Spectrum, TN9948, Tier City Color Computer, Tier City Model 3 and 4, and he was asking about the Dragon as well. And he's actually got, I won't read it all here on the screen. You can actually hit the Dragon group on Facebook to get the link to it, but basically he's got a description here of what the premise of the game is, and some pretty nice artwork for the cover here. Looks like it's when I read the title, I thought it was going to be the Egyptian pyramids. No, he's actually doing like Mayan pyramids in Central and South America. So interested to see where the plot will be for that one. But anyway, if you guys are interested in doing text adventure games like we were discussing earlier, possibly doing on the Game On Challenge, this might be a brand new one to try once it gets released.
Yeah, sign me up. I want one now.
Cool.
I've actually climbed that pyramid, so
that's on my bucket list. Probably won't happen.
That whole site is amazing. Make the time.
Next up, this is a channel I've not seen before called Expertech, and that's spelled XPERTEK on YouTube. And it's a fairly new channel, I think. Basically, it's in Spanish. I'm not sure if he's in Spain or if he's somewhere in the Americas or where it's actually originating from. He's got a CoCo 2, though, and he's actually playing some third-party games and some Tandy games. Like in this case here on the screenshot, you can see he's doing Downland with the actual cartridge. And this is the original label, so this is the one that's not compatible with the CoCo 3. The odd thing is he's running his CoCo 2 on a composite Magnavox monitor, but it's an amber monitor, so all the games are in amber.
Hola.
And I turned on the auto translate so you can kind of see what he's saying here. And he does a variety of videos, not just CoCo stuff. But I'll throw a force forward. If you ever want to see what Downland looks like in amber composite, once YouTube catches up.
Shockingly, I've played this game in these colors.
At least this is a game that it's not critical. But there's other games like Pac-Man, like if you're switching between a blue ghost and a red ghost, for example, in artifact colors, it doesn't look any different, really. So some games just wouldn't work. Was that Ron?
It's a pretty clean picture.
Yeah, I mean, the composite actually did well. I mean, that's what I used for word processing and stuff because it just looked better than RF, but losing the composite colors. This is what the Dragon people went through, I guess, because they had a better quality picture than we did too, but it was all in black and white or green and...
Yeah, this image on one of those yellow Amdex with the physical screen over the screen for contrast enhancement. Beautiful.
He just needs that cardboard cutout to chop out the border.
Right.
I mean, he's got a pretty good explanation of the game. I'll just show you screenshots from the other ones. So we did Grand Prix, Morocco Grand Prix, which is by Mr. Lustig that he did for Computerware before he started his own company. Later in 1983, he did another one. I remember this one here. It's fairly detailed graphics on the cars, where the sound gets pretty annoying pretty quick. And the dying part really is aggravating. You have to do that spin out on the side there. But if you're good enough at the game and you get far enough, you actually get like a night driving where it restricts the vertical view of you've got ice and country roads. So on the country roads, your car bounces back and forth a little bit, so you have less control to dodge cars. And when you get the ice part, of course, everything you when you're driving left to right, you spin or you drive like 2 to 3 times faster because you're sliding on ice. So it gets pretty challenging later on. And it's obviously based a bit on Monaco GP from the arcade. And the other one he did was another Atomics, just like the Warehouse Mutants, called Cuber. And he's actually running on real hardware. Man, this is not faked at all, of course.
Oh, I could tell from that floppy drive in the background.
That wasn't just the MAME one? Simulated? I'm just letting this play for David's benefit.
Somebody has to tell him he doesn't have to type that other code in there.
A ver, no lo recuerdo bien. Veamos cómo se juega.
I don't think we've done this one for the challenge or Morocco GP actually. So there are a couple suggestions. Anyway, if you know anybody that speaks Spanish, I mean, you can turn the closed captioning on, obviously, and read it in English. But for any of our Spanish-speaking viewers there, if you want something that's in your native tongue, that's a good channel. It looks like he's piled like 3 CoCo games in the last week. So if he keeps going and looking at the discs images that he does on the screen, he's got a ton more games to go through. So I imagine he'll be hitting quite a few. I even saw 1 or 2 that looked like they might have actually been originated in Spanish. Now, I don't know if that's somebody patched a game, to change the text, or if there's some original games that we've never seen before written in Spanish. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, I'll keep an eye on his channel. Next up, and this is a 2-minute and 25-second video. I think I'll just kind of play it through because it's kind of interesting. We've seen some of these things before where other people on YouTube have put, the original cassette cases with the really nice artwork from the dragons up. What he's done here, though, is he's made these into pairs, and he's actually called the video Pairing Dragon 32 Games. And this is, Alan, can you pronounce that YouTube page handle?
Nope.
He must be running a-
Hikikomori style or something like that. But basically what he's done here is he's displaying 2 of the cassettes at a time, and this is the cassette covers with the artwork, but they're related somehow. So sometimes it's the clone of the same arcade game or it's the same genre. So this first one here has got Scramble and Tubeway Army, for example, which are both Scramble clones, the Atomics one, and then one that was unique to the UK. And I have no idea this is copyrighted music, so I'm just going to kill it. And here he's called Up Platforms. So these are where you have to crawl up on the platformers. He's got Leggett, which is one of the ones that we saw briefly on the history of the early 80s computers there before in the previous video. And then Cuthbert in the Mines. I'll just play a couple of them, but you can check the rest out directly on the link. These are tank-based games. So he's got Rommel 3D. And then he's also got 3D Side of Attack. Which are both kind of 3D games too. I guess you could have picked 3D or tank as his genre. And I'll do one more just to show. These ones involve fowl, birds. So it's Chucky Egg because of the chicken, and then Folly Farms Chicken Run, which I don't know if I've seen that one before. And it's got a ticked off chicken with its butt aimed at your face and an egg underneath it. So I don't even know what this game's about. Kind of scared to look. Kind of scared to look. I'm sure Sixy might have seen it though, and he'll mention it. Now, Sixy also said in the chat here, and Tubeway Army was sold in Tandy shops. So that was actually sold in the Tandy stores that Tandy owned for the CoCo. So that's kind of cool. I did not realize that. Anyway, you can go check it out. The links are, of course, on the show notes that you can find on the Discord. And the last, go good.
I was going to say, just the concept of a chicken blasting eggs at me is something I've never really thought about before.
I'd be okay as long as I have a frying pan handy.
Well, I mean, the previous video was entertaining.
Just remember, it was here on CoCo Nation.
You saw it here first, or second anyway.
We're sorry. Now, this last gaming story is something I think I missed when it actually happened. So, Sloaney Soft has been putting out games for a ton of retro 8-bit platforms and even some 16-bits there too. And Paris Surratt, same person that converted Asteroids RX from the Spectrum, has been converting some of these games over to the CoCo and Dragon as well. And this was a game called Janky Joe and Retro Hell. And I've got the link right here for the Tier City CoCo and Dragon versions of the game, but there's a bazillion different platforms you can get it on. And this one was converted over, I believe, in April of this year from the Spectrum version originally, but there's, like I said, tons of others. It looks like an interesting game. I've not had a chance to try it. It's free. There's no payment. You just go to itch.io and just download it. If you want to contribute to some money to the authors, you can. But basically, I'll just read the brief description he gives here. It says, for reasons unknown, Janky Joe is about to jump out of a helicopter and into a whole world of trouble. Join our hero as he enters the haunted arcade to play through janky interpretations of retro classics, and rescue the trapped souls of those who have dared enter before. Game is made using Jonathan Caldwell's MPAGD, which I think is part of the AGD engine that the Spectrum has, that Pear's converted 270 games to the CoCo and Dragon. Special thanks to Bruce Groves and the wonderful online community for all the help. And I've actually watched a few of this. Like, there's a lot of versions of this, or a lot of videos of the Spectrum version of this up on YouTube. You can take a look. But they're borrowing from classic arcade games and classic home games of the early 80s. So the bottom one here is kind of like a restricted version of Donkey Kong. So you got the grill up in the corner, you got barrels coming down, ladders, etc. I don't remember what this one here is. It might be Pipes. Pipe Mania. But the top one here is the Hunchback game that's also on the Dragon. So every screen you go through is basically referencing a different arcade or a different home computer game from that era. And there's lots of these screens to go through, and you get to see a whole bunch of it's like a retro. It's like a nostalgia game almost, because you're basically playing like mini versions of all these different games as one big game that you're going through. So it looks pretty intriguing to me. So this is something I would suggest, especially since it's a freebie, and I don't think any of us have seen it before. Correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you guys have, but that might be an interesting one to throw into the mix for the Game On Challenge here, because that's it looks pretty interesting.
Definitely.
Already downloaded it.
Oh, good. You give us a review next week then.
No, we're all going to play it, so don't just put it on me.
Well, I got to put it on you for now because we've already got the games picked out for next week. So.
Oh, no.
Anyway, it looks really cool. It's like I said, massively cross-platform. So if anybody wants to try it on some of the other machines and maybe report back, what the differences are, converting it from the Spectrum, we basically lose the color attribute blocks that the Spectrum has. So it's basically just a P Mode 4 256x192 two-color game. But pretty detailed graphics and like a lot of nostalgia in there if you're into arcade games. So I'm really curious on that one. So that is it for the Game On news. Did you want to play the intro for the other one, regular news, Mark, or should I just?
When you want the latest in TRS-80, Tandy, Dragon, MC-10, and all of their hardware cousins, no matter what it takes, or where news breaks, from around the world to your nation. The CoCo Nation News with L. Curtis Boyle.
Wow.
I wish I was as far as the show's concerned, but oh, don't let me share yet.
Don't know why.
Okay, let me try it again.
You're the only one sharing.
Oh, there it works. I don't know why it just said can't share first time. Okie dokie. So, first one up, TRS-80 Retro Programming did a longer video for him. Most of his videos are fairly short. This one's almost 3/4 of an hour on the law of sine. So he's kind of going through some math using sine and cosine and figuring out hypotenuse and stuff. So it's kind of a tutorial / educational / thing. So you can, input and figure out, how to draw the proper triangle using all the sine and cosine calculations, etc. Which I won't bother playing there because that's a bit intellectual for our show. But if you want to actually learn a bit about that, and he's kind of like typing it in and figuring out the code as he's going, as he usually does. So it's kind of a learning experience, kind of like Alan was mentioning with that semi-language book. So it's a nice little tutorial video if you want to learn how that whole thing works, if you forget your basic geometry, which I have. And the second one he released here is just a quick little update to Tales of Suburbia, where he mentions in the title that basically he's almost done the game now. There's no commentary. This little clip here is just that he's fleshed out the graphics for the kitchen scene and added a bunch of things. We kind of showed one, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, but he's added a few more things in there, so I'll just play a little bit. Anyway, he's got this little thing where he plays a little bit of music between each room. But you can see he's added a whole sink and cupboards and a oven and a refrigerator and a bunch of other things. And you can actually interact with some of this stuff in the game too. So it sounds like that game's getting close to release. And he's got a couple other projects going too. Next up, we've got Simon. Now, Simon, I think, had to leave. He's not on the call anymore. Is that correct?
Correct.
No, he's
Okay.
left.
Okay. So he put up a quick video using XOR, but this has been tested on real hardware and works as well. And basically, it's to show doing mode changes and special timing tricks to get smooth scrolling on the regular old text screen on a VDG chip. Now, I think Sixie's actually done some stuff here using graphics screens. He's got some demo programs on his site that does the same type of effect on the graphics mode, but this is just showing it on the text. So it's a little bit of a basic driver, and then it kind of kicks into the actual machine language routine, but you'll be able to see the effect it has. You can see some smooth scrolling here, and it's kind of scrolling the lines up. So there's some pretty cool effects you can do, and I know Sixie was experimenting, or was it Stuart Orchard? We're experimenting with a shooter scrolling platform game, or not platform, but a scrolling shooter game, kind of like Xevious or something like that, using the P-Mode 4 graphics with that same type of thing, and actually having sprites flying across on it. I think it's Sixie has it on his site, where the XOR site is. Next up, we have an update from Ron Klein on the CoCo Pi project. I'll just read the opening paragraph. I won't read the rest of it. You can actually check out the CoCoPi.com, CoCo-Pi.com site to get the full details. But basically what he's saying here, as some of you know, there has not been an update for MAME on CoCo Pi since version 0.254. Now, I have no idea what version MAME's at right now, if anybody here knows.
0257.
Okay, so 3 versions behind. And he goes, this is because it no longer compiles successfully on 32-bit systems, Buster-based, I'm not sure what that means, for the Raspberry Pi. It fails with something in the 7-zip libraries, and no amount of tinkering has helped. I'm not the only one having this issue. Ms. Paff on Atari Age forums maintains the code for the TI-994A driver and noticed this issue as well when he was compiling for 32-bit ARM and Raspberry Pi platforms. He came to the same conclusion Ron did, which was to move on to the latest Raspberry Pi OS Bullseye and to 64-bit. And you can read more about the findings, and there's a link to the Atari Age there. But basically, it sounds like unless some miracle happens, you're basically going to be requiring 64-bit version of MAME on anything past this point.
So this is more accurate for a CoCo because it's orphan now too.
Yeah. Now, this affects the Raspberry Pi projects. If you have the older Pis that can only run 32-bit, of course, MAME's not the only emulator. He mentions you can run OVCC, etc. TRS-80GP is another one that has CoCo 1 and 2 options now. He's planning on adding CoCo 3 later, but it also supports all the TRS-80 black and white models. So anyway, you got other options you can do on the Pis. Just be aware that as he's converting everything over to 64, which will actually give some performance increases as well, that 32-bit will no longer work with MAME. You'll have to use a 64-bit.
So my Pi is going to be moldy.
No, the Pi 3 and the Pi 4 both support 64-bit mode, and recent updates to both Debian 10, that's what the Buster means, that Raspbian is based on, and then now Debian 11 and 12, which just came out last month. They support 64-bit kernels with 32-bit user spaces, and I believe they're now moving that entirely to 64-bit because upstream operating systems like Ubuntu, and so they're starting to drop all 32-bit support. And so package maintainers for libraries and things it's all falling apart because 32-bit is, no one really needs that anymore for PCs, and even Raspberry Pis now have more than 4 gigs of RAM coming with some models. So you can actually take advantage of 64-bit for bigger memory spaces and things. So the world is just moving on, and this is a consequence of it. And so it sounds like 7-zip is the first library that broke in this case, but there are others that are starting to in other industries and things. So just get used to it. But if you have a Pi 3 and a Pi 4, you should be able to use the 64-bit versions of Buster, Bullseye, and now Bookworm, which is Debian 12. And Debian's operating system code names are based on the names of the toys from the Toy Story series of movies. So Buster is one, Bullseye was another, Bookworm, of course. So that's what that's about. But
I find it ironic that the Pies, which are kind of like the hobbyist computer of the modern time, like our CoCos were part of that group in the early 80s, is now being obsoleted at 32-bit, yet we're still using our 8-bit machines 40 years later. Right? That's the whole premise of our show.
If you have a 32-bit only Pi, like the Pi 1 and Pi 2, they still work and do and all that fun stuff too. So I mean, yeah, they are becoming retro and vintage now.
Well, the problem with the older Pies is no one really works on a Pi for the Pi's sake. It's
right.
the object, the conclusion. No one cares about a 32-bit Pi other than it worked at the time. So you're right. Move on.
Yeah, the bare metal folks in Raspberry Pi, in my case, for example, I find it easier to work on the Pi 1 because the hardware interfaces were a bit easier to get at for some of the things like GPIOs. So for some programming, some bare metal stuff, the older Pis are actually still better. They're catching up with the newer Pis for stuff like that. But in the main, most people want to run some sort of Linux-ish operating system or RISC OS, and then do Python labs and things like that on them, and that's all just moving on. So the Linux world is up or out. You either upgrade or you get out.
Yeah, and I mean Windows and Mac have already done this years ago. So I mean Linux held on as long as they could.
Well, it sounds like that Pi's been eaten. It's time to move on.
Right.
Okay, so next up we have Brendan Donahue, fresh off of being at which was the VCF in Fort Worth?
Southwest.
Southwest? Okay. Couldn't remember if it was just south or southwest.
Okay,
So
thanks for showing this, Curtis, so some of us could see him. This is what I was looking.
So fresh off that, there's the Classic Game Fest in Austin, Texas. Now you didn't get a chance to go, Alan, or did anybody else on the panel get a chance to go?
I did not get a chance to go this year, but I have been to previous ones, and it's amazing. Was a blast of a time. I got to meet one of the original programmers and project directors for Atari back in the heyday of the 2600 and go through his lecture about everything that went on then and since, including he's the guy that wrote the Stella Bible. So there's some pretty cool stuff that happens at this particular show, as well as the opportunity to spend far too much money.
Well, that's
like
pretty well
on
every
this
trade
stuff
show.
right here. See that little guy, that MC10 standing up on his side? That's what you want.
That's not in indoor holding mode. So get that out of your head.
No, you can see it's got the spacer for the upgrades that Brendan's been doing, like the joystick and the keyboard port. You can see he's plugged in, so he's actually running. It looks like almost like a Mac keyboard or something on there.
Yep, that's the Pi key on, and with the stand there to also hold it vertically.
And the joystick's plugged in too.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you can see a CoCo 1, probably an F board, judging by the position of the Radio Shack label. Playing popcorn. So he put up a few of the photos here, so we'll kind of go through here. Playing on the MC10. This is one of Paul Shoemaker's games, one of his poker ones. There's Brendan. I forget his daughter's name. Why am I pulling a blank on that? Maybe that's kind of showing off their booth. You can see Sheldon McDonald's Treasure Island Defense on the CoCo 1 on the right. I don't see a cartridge in there, so I'm guessing that's just the raw disc or drive wire version, not the one with the extra hardware for playing the sound and stuff in the background, because he has made versions for the PSG, etc., and the GMC2, I think.
He's also played my VG6 pictures that I've done, and
yeah, I think he did both shows he was at.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's nice of him to do that.
They make a really good demo for the CoCo VGA and what the point of it was. Because you don't have to get into the technical stuff of how weird the VDG is at all. You can, oh, look, and with the CoCo VGA, you can also do all this. And here comes the Ron pictures. Yeah, great. It's such a great demo.
Now, from looking at this photo here, Alan, like you can see on the left here, it says Retro TV Art. So I'm guessing this is a gaming expo, but beyond computer and video games. Like
there's tons of console and everything game related
Like card games, I'm assuming, like the Magic the Gathering, and
it's mostly electronic based games. So you have PC games, you have consoles, you have TV games, everything from the Magnavox and Pong on up. But there's some like tabletop board game, card game stuff, but not as much as you would expect. That
yeah, because I'm just judging by this
station
photo
there-
at the far left there. There's no electronic anything going on there. It's
Right,
just-
but the artwork is of electronic game things, and a lot of
Ah.
people do things like bead art, where they do recreate pixel art from games using physical objects like beads or whatever. So there's a lot of game related memorabilia and swag and just fun stuff, and just tons and tons of cartridges and cables and add-ons and all the kinds of things that go along with this as well. So yeah, game.
It looks like a pretty
art-
good size show too, judging by some of these pictures here. How big the
Yeah, it is a huge and very packed. That's exactly what it looked like when I went before COVID too. But this will be
I like
the
it.
exact
You
same.
you can tell it's a Texas show. How do we hold this tripod together? Here, use my hat.
Yeah, hold my hat.
Yeah, Rick, you're originally from Texas, aren't you?
Yeah, I would have been all over this 20 years ago.
Oh, it's totally worth it. My wife was going to have a booth for this, but we ended up having reality get in the way and weren't able to actually vend at the show.
Right.
And this year's Brendan's booth again. This time they're playing Gauntlet, the original CoCo 1 and 2 one by Dicom. I don't know if they're playing the 609 optimized version. I'll have to ask Brendan.
Well, that would mean he had a 6309 in that F board.
Yeah, I have one in mine.
That's the only way to roll.
And we've got some people actually trying out CoCo stuff here.
She got a snazzy shirt on too.
This looks like some apples. It looks like on the, yeah, there's a Mac G4 here. That's an Apple, what is that, 3? And some iMac, the old one kind of duplicating the character from Alexo from Pixar.
That's a 2GS, looks like an Apple IIc.
Oh, the 2GS, not a 3? Okay.
Yeah, it's 2GS.
Is that popcorn?
Yep, you betcha, Steve Bjork's popcorn. Here's one of the Inafudu games running on the MC10. And that was Batlot, which is actually one of the cooler ones. I don't think we've played that on the challenge yet either. There's a game we did cover on the challenge. This is the MC10 version running. So Paul Shoemaker's Ghost Rush, I think the original version.
MC10 crack.
No Joe pad required for that one. This is Sheldon. Yeah, so this is Sheldon's later game. I think the last CoCo game he released so far, because he's been working on Genesis stuff recently. But that's the CoCo 3
game.
only vertically scrolling hockey game.
Yeah, it's called
Very
Ice
Canadian.
Crawlers.
Now, does that only come on cartridge, or does that download too?
I think it was up on his page.
Okay, I haven't actually had a chance to try it yet. So that's showing off their booth with the Pi key on the left for the MC10 and then CoCo VJ on the right. Which hopefully this will start getting manufactured again, because it sounds like the chip shortage is over, though it sounds like the prices might still be pretty high. So I know he might be waiting for that to come back to normal. You're nodding, Nick. You kind of looked into this, or Rick?
Yeah, things are coming back, but as you say, all in due time.
Yeah, the Gimme X and the CoCo VJ are both waiting for the exact same chip. And there, I think we've covered them all. Well, thanks, Brendan, for posting some photos of that up on the CoCo group on Facebook. Next up, CoCo Town put out a video this week too. Now, this is actually a video on recursion, and then why would you use it in a program, and an example, like some appropriate examples that are actually useful, unlike a lot of the stuff I took in university. And he actually has the code you can actually take a look at. It's assembly code. And he also shows some pseudo stuff. So one of the examples he gives is like drawing fractals, which you can see at the very beginning of the video when I start playing it. The main thrust of it is, though, is to like auto solve a maze. And there's a screensaver that Brian Schubring always runs in the background on his OS Mind machine that shows, the same thing, where it randomly creates a maze and then solves it and shows you all the backtracking it has to do. And this is uses recursion. And the amount of code it does, you'd think that'd be complicated figuring out, is this a dead end? Is this a dead end? Have I been here before? It would be hard. And actually using recursion, it's like dead simple, super small program. So I'll play a little bit of the fractal running at the beginning here.
This is a fractal called a Koch snowflake. It is intricately detailed, requiring a huge number of turns to draw. But surprisingly...
So that's going through that. And then the maze one here, and he does a really good explanation, like if you want to figure out, the use of doing recursion. So this one here, he just kind of explains you got all these points and you got these paths. Some don't go anywhere, they're dead ends, and others you can actually traverse through. And then he actually goes through the explanation, but he writes the pseudocode to navigate that entire thing. That's it. That's the entire routine because it uses recursion. And then he goes into doing the assembly language version on the 6809 to do this exact same thing. And that's the entire routine there. There's a little bit above the main thing that just basically calls it. And then basically this just calls itself over and over until it exhausts all the paths. So even in assembly, this is very small routines. And you can do all kinds of neat, interesting things, whether you're drawing fractals or solving mazes or whatever else. It's now, is it the most optimized speed-wise? Probably not. It can use a lot of stack space if you have a huge maze because it's going to be pushing its previous positions on the stack continuously. So you have to make sure you have enough stack space. But as far as the programming goes, it's like, almost nothing to it. So it's a really good informative video if you want to learn how to write a maze solver and then also learn how recursion works at the assembly language level. I highly recommend it. If you're learning assembly language, you can pair it up with the book that Alan was talking about earlier. And here's this kind of explanation in full source code. So that's the entire program, including the main calling routine. And then some explanations of exactly what it's doing. So he goes through that in the video very, very well. We also have an update from Paul Thayer on his Shmup You Up. Now, this is a longer one. Normally, he's been doing these little quick demos, like showing, graphics and showing sound routines. So in this case here, he's actually going through the game development part of it. And he's going into the assembly language programming behind mixing voices, how his FIRQ sound routine works, and some of the issues that he's hit. Because now he's starting to merge different channels together. And the way he's got it merging is that the volume starts to drop off occasionally. So it goes in a big explanation. And there's a lot of good comments in the comment section here that I won't bother going through. You can just check it on the Facebook CoCo group. Kind of explaining some things. I know, Nick, you responded to it. And then I think Paul Fiscarelli responded to it as well. Some ways to keep the volume up while you're, mixing up to 4 samples at once type thing. Now I'm trying to remember the last time we played his update. Did he have it working with 2 samples simultaneously because he has the explosion and the laser firing sound, or did he only have the one working? Do you guys remember?
I thought he had it with both, but it was taking too much, and he had too many triggering at once or something like that.
Yeah, that problem's solved now too. I'll see if I can catch that a little bit.
Do a little bit of a long update today. 3 at least, probably on the other ones too. The high end of things.
Yeah, he's going into explaining how the 6-bit samples work, where they pre-shift.
So, this game in 9.9, so that's going to be.
I probably won't be able to find it here because unfortunately they don't have a pop-up
sound effects down
preview window.
So that's.
He goes to his assembly language code, the way he's got his memory map and tasks set up.
And then you can still hear the shots being fired when the explosions go off too.
But no slowdowns now, so he's actually got that optimized pretty good.
So if anybody has any ideas of how I can add 4 channels together and then get a louder volume, I am all ears, bro.
Yeah, you need this.
Well, that's the easy way.
This is the ORC 180 I'm getting back to. And yeah, getting all those channels mashed together without messing each other up is hard.
Now, Nick, this is something you've had to encounter in your games program, the 6-bit DAC. Did you have any tips?
I gave him some tips about how to add up all the channels, but the volume loss, is there. I do get that on mine as well. I think there may be ways you can just fudge. You could probably do.
Well, Paul Fiscarelli suggested one here, and I didn't know if this is something you'd tried before too. Find the comment. Because you have to keep track of the number of voices you're playing simultaneously at the same time, and then do some adjustments based on that.
To decide how far to do a left shift to move the bits into the DAC area, but
yeah, the way I see it, I'll quote what Paul said to you. The way I see it, you can either do this with 3 copies of each sample, full volume, half volume, and quarter volume, or dynamically change the volume for each sample, stored a single quarter volume on the fly, depending on how many samples you are currently playing. Now, that will slow down the routine. And if you're mixing 4 voices together, I mean, I know one thing Paul did to increase the speed is he actually dropped the sampling rate. So I think he's only using like 3.5 or 3 3/4 killers, which for lasers and explosion stuff. He actually had a sample, and earlier on you could hear when you drop it down, you're losing some of the high end on the sound effects. On the explosion, it's barely noticeable, but on the lasers, you can hear a difference, but it still sounds good. I mean, if you hadn't heard the first sample, you wouldn't even know there was a difference, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know that's what Jeremy Spiller did with Xenix, because his music and sound routines are running at 3.5 kilohertz, and that too, to free up the extra room for 4 voice simultaneous. They're all done in software. So that sounds like, if your sampling rate's low enough to be able to do that and give yourself enough time to mix these samples and adjust the volume based on the number of active samples. So if you're only playing 2, you'd shift it up 1, up 1 to the left for doubling the volume, basically, because when you're adding the 2 together for a 4 sample style routine, you're going to be losing that high bit completely. So you just halved all your volumes, basically. Anyway, it's a really good video. It's kind of an exploratory thing. He kind of shows you some of the compromises he had to make, what the differences those compromises did. So he's got, stuff running a bit quieter. He's got some stuff where he's lost some of the high-end, high-pitched stuff. On the other hand, the little stutters and pauses he was getting when he gets busy drawing explosions and firing rapid fire while explosions are going on, all that's fixed. So definitely a compromise had to be made, and I think he definitely made the right one, because now the game just looks buttery smooth again. And explosions aren't that high fidelity. It's just, it's like a lot of games used white noise, just random crap, either from a sound chip or random crap read from the ROM and just thrown at the DAC without a care in the world as to what actually was in there. So definitely, if you're limiting semi-language sound routines, especially on the CoCo 3 with a programmable timer interrupt, you can do it on the CoCo 1 and 2 using the little trick that Nick has been using lately and Simon's used before, of using the IRQ on the H-Sync, but then you're eating literally more than 50% of the CPU time to do it. So you're a bit more limited what kind of a game you could write to keep the speed up. But really good, kind of almost a tutorial and a learning experience all put together. Okay, next up. Sorry, go ahead.
Simon has a really cool assembly language sound routine where it's H-Sync interrupt driven, but he uses enough time to where it uses more time than one H-Sync will.
That's exactly what Nick's doing too.
And that right there gets you back a bunch of CPU time to use. So,
yeah, especially on the CoCo 1 and 2, because basically you've got 57 CPU cycles per scan line. And because they stupidly tied H-Sync to IRQ instead of FIRQ in the CoCo line of computers.
Yeah, you burn all the cycles.
Yeah, you've burned 40 cycles just servicing the interrupt. That's like if you just did a straight RTI, pushing all the registers in the stack at the start of the interrupt and then RTI returning them all, you've basically blown 3/4 of the time you had. So you've got like 10, 15 cycles left.
So talk to Simon if you need that kind of super high speed sound.
Yeah, basically, you overflow it so that you're going into the next interrupt while in the interrupt service routine. You overflow it by at least 1 cycle. And then you've got the entirety of the remainder of the next H-Sync, which takes you up to you get 58 cycles that you've lost, but you gain 56 to actually do the sound. So you're basically using just a hair over 50%. And that's what Nick's been doing on How many games has it been now, Nick? I think Jumping Joey was done that way. Pipes
Yeah,
was
I think
done
I
that
did
way.
3 games. Was it the last 3 semi-graphic games, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you're
Really
using that
impressed.
same technique in Neutrode.
The greatest game ever. Yeah.
I will say the sound effects on the new version of Neutrode are much better than any of your previous efforts. Shame about the gameplay.
It's pretty good.
You know,
I was
sounds
just
good.
thinking,
Sounds good.
I should give a very short demo, but I just did a mod that crashes the program, so I can't play it.
What? You had a bug?
No. It was
Not a mod. It's not a
unfinished
bug.
feature. So yeah, an unfinished feature.
Yeah, he's jumping into code he hasn't written yet.
But yeah,
That's
Simon
cool.
did the exact same trick, and it's a cool trick. It really is a shame that Tandy and Motorola's reference design did not have the sound tied into the FIRQ, the H-Sync, I should say, tied to FIRQ, and V-Sync on the IRQ, because I think they have it flipped, don't they? Or are they both on IRQ? I can't remember.
Gee.
On the CoCo 1 too.
Yeah.
But tying the
They're both on
fastest interrupt source the CoCo 1 and 2 has to the slowest interrupt, not a smart idea.
Yeah, and the FIRQ is hooked to cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares?
Because detecting if there's a cartridge in the slot there, I want to do that 15,750 times per second in case somebody unplugged it really quick.
Well, now all those hardware guys cheat and use that, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but it could have been an IRQ or NMI or something, not.
Yeah, it didn't have to be fast
Yeah.
IRQ.
Yeah, it should, like FRQ should have been reserved for the H-Sync because that is the fastest interrupt generator, unless you have an external cartridge with a even faster clock chip or something in there. But
We're just doing that now, so yeah.
yeah,
So you're
so this trick is a really nice compromise because basically at least you get 50% of your speed back. I mean, you obviously won't be doing like 4-way scrolling real-time P Mode 4 games that way with, background music tracks or something. But if you do a game that isn't moving that much on the screen at once, or you use a lower res mode so you don't have as much graphics data to move around, as Nick has proven with the last 3 or 4 games he's been doing, you can actually get a decent arcade game with full stuff in the background, either multi-channel sound effects or even music. Like the Pipes, you had 2 channels, right? One for sound effects and one for the music? Or is it 2 for the music and 1 sound effect? I can't remember.
Jumping Joey just had it as in the music routine.
Okay. Anyway. So next up, we got a Jim Gary. This is a non-game related. So this is the latest version of his taking the randomized pseudo maze generation that was originally a Commodore 64 one-liner. And in this case here, he's revised it because he's done this before on the MC10. But this case here, he actually sets it up to run in the 64x48 semi-graphic 6 mode. So actually, it's got square pixels, which I know Nick likes, and slightly higher res, so it actually looks a bit more impressive too. Now he doesn't scroll here because he's doing this in BASIC, and BASIC has no idea how to scroll a SG6 screen properly. So I'm guessing that's why he didn't have it scroll. So and it's a one-liner too, as you saw at the beginning here. It's that's the entire program right there. And next up, he did one here for Naomi and friends. Now I'm not sure if Naomi's his daughter or granddaughter or friend of the family. I have no idea. But as you have probably heard, if you pay attention to social media here, Barbie's been a pretty big movie this last week or two. I think it's probably been the most successful opening weekend in quite a while from anything. I think it was 155 million. So he decided to cash in on the popularity here, and he actually made a little MC10 Barbie program in BASIC. That's basically it. So it gives you a bit of a text screen saying the Tier City MC10 says go. Then he does the kind of the Barbie logo in blue, and then he does a magenta Barbie head type thing in semi-graphics. Next up, we actually got a fair bit of Dragon updates to do here. So the first few are from Julian Brown. So he's fresh off starting to sell, as we mentioned last week, his Dragon 32 replacement motherboards, version 2.1, and he's already started thinking about what to put in version 3, which will have enhancements. So he's asking some technical questions, and if you're on Facebook in the Dragon group, you have any knowledge about this, please respond to him for the technical questions, and he wants to add a programmable character set. So this is basically like what the CoCo VGA does, where basically you redefine the entire 256 character set that the VDG would display. And there is the standard VGGs have a pin on it for external ROMs. That's how the lower kit by Dennis Kits and a bunch of others worked. But he's got some technical things on the PIAs and P2 channels and stuff that, it's getting into hardware I don't understand. Basically, he's asking about it's worth exposing the extra 6 channels. Can't really use the cartridge port without breaking compatibility, but the opportunity is there through other means. So for you hardware guys, I can't respond to it because it's like above my pay grade, but please contribute any ideas you have on that.
Hang on. You don't get paid anything, so you don't.
You pay him twice as much, yeah.
Yeah, which means if it was worth anything at all, it's above my pay grade because I get paid 0. So
yeah.
And then now he's doing kind of the key fix for the Dragon. I don't know if you've seen this before, Rick, or not, but it's kind of the Dragon version of what you're doing.
Well, this is different because it uses regular keycaps and key switches. So it's more like the other keyboards for the CoCo, all of whose name escapes me right now.
Mark Data?
All of those sorts that,
Well, Ed Snyder's as well.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Because basically he's got a picture you can see here of his prototype type thing, and then he actually put it in, and then he found out why you need spacers. Which I'll show in the next picture. It's kind of sunken into the keyboard a fair bit there without the spacers.
Hello.
So I joked at him that I said, well, you can kind of consider it a chiclet keyboard now because it's kind of recessed right in the case, but there.
So did the Dragon already use sort of regular keycaps or
yeah, there was 2 versions. There's an Alps version and that was the other one. But they've had a full real keyboard right from day one. In fact, it's basically the same as the Mark Data Products keyboard as far as keycaps and stuff. That was one of the big advantages of the Dragon over the CoCo, actually, because at this time when the Dragon was released in 82, we still had the chiclet.
Right.
And we didn't have a real parallel port, which the Dragon did as well. So, I mean, it was actually a bit more like a more advanced CoCo in some ways.
Yeah, parallel. I remember the J&M.
How much typing was done to where all the way through the black overshot to the white key underneath? As I recall, those are pretty thick. Someone banged that space bar many a time. That ain't no decal that's worn through. That's a whole
it's the any key, it's the fire key, it's the space bar. So
apparently A is really important too. So
or teardrop as it looks here, but
right. But that's a whole layer of plastic worn away. That's not just a decal.
I think what he said is he had a bunch of old keys lying around for various things. He just jammed together just to make sure the board worked, which is why you can see the top row goes 1 to 7, then F8, F9, F10 instead of the regular number keys.
Escape instead of break. 1 through 7 are just stickers.
Yeah, there's stickers to get the right keys on there because the quote's in the right place, the ampersand's in the right place.
8, 9, 10, yeah, close enough.
He's got a sticker for the @ as well.
I just like the fact that this is a Dragon with F12 keys. Like it just looks super advanced that way.
Right. It's a very clean case.
Yep.
Indeed.
Anyway, that's why you need the spacers to lift the keyboard up because otherwise it sinks right into the case.
Well, I can get Neutroid up and running if you want to have a sound. Just enough.
Well, I'm just about done the news, so if you can just hold it off until we're finished here. I just got 2 things more on the Dragon to go through. Hey, the first one is actually a pretty big announcement. It's the Dragon Meetup 2023. The official dates and the place have been announced. So you'll recall from 2022, because that was the 40th anniversary of the Dragon, they actually went and did it in Swansea, and you actually got to go see the old Dragon building if you wanted to as part of that. This year, it's back to the Center for Computing History in Cambridge. But the meeting this year is going to be on October the 7th to the 8th. And if you're in the Cambridge area during that time, As Richard Harding mentions on his post on Facebook, basically all 68XX computers are welcome. So that adds things like the Alice, the MC10, the Thompson something or other. I can't remember which one it was.
Oh,
CoCo
7.
1, 2, 3. Is that
The Thompson MO7.
right? Thank you. I totally blanked it. Or gimmixes or SWTPCs or whatever else. There's
So this year's theme should be, okay, now we have Dragon Basic.
yeah. Well, that last year's when they scanned it in, and they didn't tell anybody what it was really, because that's when they got the original source listing. And one guy spent the entire weekend at the show scanning every page that we've now seen since. Awesome stuff. I am going to make it to one of these years. I promise.
Well, Curtis, you better do it before you're,
dead.
Well, okay, I wasn't trying to be morbid right off the bat, but okay, yes.
Maybe I need to go check out our new data center over there. Yeah.
Oh, you have one in Cambridge, or just in the UK in general?
Near enough.
As far as they know.
Yeah.
Like I know Boat's gone to the Amiga show in the UK, and he said it's a blast. So I'm imagining, we've got Dragon people. That'd be even better. Because you can meet like Stuart Orchard and Richard Harding and Kieran and
maybe even Duncan if he goes out.
Yeah, some of the people that worked at Dragon have been at these meets the last few years too. That helped create the thing from the scratch. So it'd be like meeting the UK version of Mark Siegel, which some people actually got to do at the VCF Southwest. Anyway, mark your calendars. I'm hoping to get some live reports from them, especially if there's any new hardware or software getting announced or being demonstrated. So any of you in the Dragon community that catch this before the show in October, if you know of anything happening, if you can maybe link up with us and we'll get you in on the Zoom call and show the show floor like we have in previous years.
Yeah. Show off them dragons.
Yep. And the last one I got here is from John Whitworth of Dragon Plus Electronics. So he's posted an update to his Super RGB package. The final versions of the 2 to 4 boards each owner will need are now ordered. He's got the mock-ups on here. You can see what the design was. So depending on how your system is set up, you will need at least 2 of these 4 boards, and you may need more. I'll read this description here just to hopefully that'll clarify it. All customers will need the 6847 plug-in adapter and the Super RGB board itself. So that's the 2 minimum you require. The SAM breakout board and the DIN 8 output board depend on how confident you are at soldering. So obviously I'd need a 4 if I had a Dragon. A connection to the SAM clock and whether you have a Dragon PSU power supply unit board installed, which already contains the output socket. So for those that are looking to get the RGB output from the Dragon, boards are on order. He should have them in shortly, and then they'll actually start making these as kits you can order. So this is the Super RGB to DIN 8 adapter, the Geo cable, as it's called. That's the 6847 socket. I think that's the SAM socket when he's talking about. And there's the main Super RGB board, RGB circuit itself. So look forward to those.
NTSC and PAL jumper.
Yep.
Does he say what that chip is? Is it an FPGA or?
I think he did mention it before
Yeah.
when we talked about this project before, but I don't remember. It's not shown in the little mock-up here. You also
So
see the
that-
clock polarity, which I think actually lets you control the artifact colors, wouldn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
That would be
NTSC?
cool. I'd love to have one for my Dragon Tano.
Yeah, and the fact it has NTSC and PILE means it's basically designed for both, I believe, from what I remember from last time we talked about it.
I wonder if he's going to do a CoCo version.
Well, isn't the Dragon a little bit different? Because it's got that weird DIN connector for the monitor output, first of all, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, but it'd have to be a different.
Just composite,
board.
basically.
Yeah, but the thing is if you're already using the 6847 socket and the SAM socket, why couldn't you just, use
Yeah,
them
just
straight
take it straight
across?
out. Yeah. That is true. Hey, it's good to see John's been very active the last month or two here. Because of course he was out for quite a while with his cancer treatments and stuff, and he's been doing well. His health's been keeping up, and he's actually got his store back open again. He's got multiple products in it, not the full, gamut he used to have previous to that, but he's just making sure he's not overtaxing himself, and I think that's the best thing to do. And that is all I. Sorry, go ahead.
Go, John, go. Keep on fighting the good fight.
Yep. That's all I got for news. Apparently, Nick is going to demonstrate some 19th edition of the same game.
Curtis hangs up.
Come on, Nick. You've got to give it to us.
Just to demonstrate the sound. I won't play the game because I'm running. I'm going to be running.
Yeah, we want to stay awake.
In MAME. So remember, this is the greatest game ever written.
It does have good sound, and actually, your new animations are pretty cool too. I have to admit.
Oops, hang on. I've got to stop the.
I
I'm
don't hear
using
anything.
MAME, and the silly thing just starts off. Well,
Did you
it's
share your
always
sound? Because
hard.
we're not hearing anything.
I'm not a very good MAME operator, and I'm trying to get out of the game now. Oh, how about I just leave it and just wait? Everyone has to wait.
Just scroll lock and hit escape. Unless
Hang
you've
on.
changed the defaults.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to unshare again so I can get the sound on, don't I?
Yeah. Yeah, if you didn't check the box, it'll stay off.
No, I didn't. Okay, let's try it again. Take 2. Share sound.
Hey.
Yeah,
Well,
sound.
it's just starting because MAME's confusing the. Now it'll only allow me to hit. Hang on, bumping everywhere now. It's
That
not
sounds pretty
allowing
good.
me to control it. It's not allowing me to control it. So yeah, I'm not controlling that at all.
I like the reflectors though.
Now there's more sound effects, but because I can't control it, it won't let me get to it. Let me just try and abort. This is why I hate emulators. Although, mind you, I do use XRAW.
Well, can you demonstrate with XRAW, or do you get that popping too much?
Well, the sound doesn't work in XRAW very well. Yeah, so I'm using MAME so you can. The point is to hear the sound.
And we're definitely hearing the bumps and.
Yeah, but I don't know why it's just running by itself, MAME. Oh, see, it just kicks off by itself.
Pretty cool.
Nah. It's you're not hearing the best bit. It shouldn't be moving so I can control it. It's MAME doing weird things for me.
So have you got the MAME controls for joystick enabled or no?
No, I don't. That's a thing.
Like if you use the arrow keys, does that work?
I'm trying to, but it's not letting me. MAME's not letting me. See, I'm not doing that at all. I don't know where it's getting the keys from.
It's just.
I hate emulators. Sorry if I said that before.
Thank you. It's like the joystick is active, but it's defaulting
I
to the
know.
upper
I know.
corner, so
It's just.
Right, every step it just does something.
yeah, it's not centered. It's just
I will
minimal
try and
riding.
run X4, and unfortunately, you won't hear the sound as well. But MAME just drives me mad. If I don't stop now, someone will get killed.
Good joke.
Just remap, and I will share the screen.
Best day ever.
Hey.
See, it's written in BASIC and everything. Pretty impressive, eh?
Yeah, that's right. See?
That's because Nick is so good at coding, he doesn't need to do that silly.
He can't even get it to load. Look at this.
Hey, man, help us.
This is where I said I didn't know if it'll be working, but it will go this way. I can get around it until I got time to fix it, and I've got to slow down. There we go. I'll slow it down. Okay. Now I'll just bounce the little neutroid in the middle, just a stall so that you can hear that. That's what I wanted you to hear.
Wow.
Yes, big lightning bolty thing.
That's what it sounds like when I plug in a soldering iron.
It's a Tesla coil.
I can only get 2 of these before it times out because I'm testing it. It goes to chamber complete.
Yeah, lightning sound is excellent.
Pretty cool.
But there, I'm trying to demonstrate the sound at this point, not the game.
Now that's fairly similar. Is that the same sound sample used on 0 Hour for its lightning bolts?
No,
Okay.
different.
I haven't played in a while, but it just sounds familiar to me somehow. I thought that was maybe where you got it.
Yeah, I can't use keyboard control to save my life. So,
Well, despite Curtis, it's coming along pretty good.
oh yeah. No, it's not.
It's not just me, man. Ken and a few others have joined in too. So
Here, take her money. I
But
want it.
he's made the sound so good that it's like intriguing now.
yeah. Like I said before, I said, the new sound effects Nick's put in here are really good, especially for a CoCo 1 and 2 game. Shame about the gameplay. So
What? You'll eat your words.
You're really pushing.
I won't mind being wrong in this case.
It's even American money, so it's worth a lot.
Okay,
There's a new
man.
one.
Yeah, I just can't control it. Not without.
See, that's the problem I had with the original Neutroid.
No,
Couldn't control it either.
That's just a PEBCAC error.
Anyway, that's about all I've got. So we'll go back to the show.
So how closer do you think you are to getting done? Do you have a rough schedule?
It is very close. And then I'm very close to the stage of then entering the game testing stage, which means that's when I pass it on to
Buck and Taz,
someone like Buck Owens, and watch him flog it to death.
Yeah. Well, don't include Taz because Taz been kind of stealing Buck's thunder lately. So I think
And
if you get to the both of them, they'll find every bug.
And Sloopy.
Sleepy just likes the game. I don't know if he's like that much of a star with it or not. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all.
The president of the Neutroid fan club should get a Neutroid.
That's true.
So, Nick, when you are working on this program, does it give you ideas for a new, different one?
Obviously not. This is his fifth try.
Version of Neutroid. Yeah.
Actually, I've been waiting for you to finish this because someone told me I should tell you a good game idea.
He's already got another game he's supposed to be working on that Ken and I keep pestering about that he said he would do. So
Get to work on
don't
your
give him
game.
any more ideas. He should finish the other one first. And it would be a CoCo 3 game. Just to whet people's appetites a bit. And a genre, we have not had a CoCo 3 version of a game before, period. Nobody's done one before.
Star Castle?
No. But I'm not sure if I can do it yet. So that's why I don't want to say anything about
I'll even
that.
help you, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I don't want it in OS9.
Space Invaders?
I've done that.
Yep. There's multiple Space Invaders with the CoCo 3 already, so nope.
I reckon a semi-graphics version of Space Invaders will go good on a CoCo 1.
Actually, I have a whole bunch of suggestions if you want some.
Yeah, suggestions is not the problem.
There's one you actually started redoing a semi-graphics version of. I think you should skip that and do a CoCo 3 version. It's Wizard of War. We don't have one.
Yeah, I know. That was another one. There's just so many ideas. Too many ideas, not enough time.
Yeah. Just do the one that Ken and I are waiting for, though. That's what you need to do.
Well, that's the plan. I will do that one next. So I'm trying to get the Neutroid out of the way.
Instead of buying another Ferrari with your Neutroid money, why don't you just retire from a regular day job and just become a full-time developer?
This
He already is.
Yeah.
This is his full-time job.
This is what you get.
That's
Well-
all I do now. So
Well, I think you need to do less sleep and more programming.
Yeah, what's this getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to be on this show? You should be getting up at 3 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning
I
every
know.
day to program.
Yeah. What are you doing going to sleep before 3 a.m.? You should be staying up like the rest of us.
Was there ever a game modeled around Nitrous 9 being able to use that clear key and go into different screens and like having the game change while you're gone and go back to it and then have to play a different part of the game and then hit clear and go to another?
Not specifically. If you ran a couple games at once, I have done that with stuff like Zone Runner, because Zone Runner, let's say you want to fly from one end of the galaxy to the other, it takes time. So you set the speed, you set the angle, then you go to another window, play Rogue for a little bit while you're waiting for it to get over there. And then you pop back over at the clear key and, I'm not there yet. I still got to wait. So I'll play some more Rogue. And then, I've done that. But
to pry in and add, there's about to be sort of, if you count a web browser as a game, because we're going to be displaying images on a separate screen that you will have to clear key to see the image.
Well, maybe I've got ideas for that.
Okay, well, cool. But still, I mean, there's just not resolution to put much of an image on the main screen where you're reading the web page. So you'll probably get a thumbnail or an icon or something, then you clear key and there's the big image.
Yeah, I can do like a zoom up, click to zoom or something.
Right.
But you can also scale them too. So I mean, that's another way, depending on how you want to do it.
Well, yeah, we want all the things.
We want a multiplayer game so that multiple CoCo users around the world can play the same game at once.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is another reason I've been pestering Gary and Ed. Like, I would really like to see options for double the vertical res on some of the modes on the Gimme X, not just the horizontal, not just the colors.
Would that change gameplay?
Getting a web page when you've got like 400 pixels vertically instead of only 200 would be a pretty big difference.
That would be different. Yes.
Yes. You mean like the early days where it was instead of you could get 640 by 350 or 640 by 400?
Yeah, the interlay circuit. Yeah. That type of thing. Except in hardware where you don't have to like jury rig two different frames. Interlace graphics type thing with a flicker. Layman 1 did that. That's how they did their interlace video too. You get 30 hertz basically.
Oh yeah, I always did that to get the most text real estate.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want on a web browser. I mean, you don't want a screen that's. I mean, we have wide screens now, but the resolution vertically is still pretty good. Proportionally, it's like 16:9, whereas on the CoCo was like 16:4 or something.
So, has anybody thought about redoing the chip, the green chip, to do
Gimme chip,
even better things, or
you talking about the Gimme chip?
No, the
VDG.
Do you
That's
think
what the CoCo VGA basically is.
Yeah, but what I was thinking is 640 by 480 type of screen. That's out of reach.
That would be almost, because you only get 64K standard at CoCo. That's pretty well. You have a screen and you don't have any room for code.
Okay. And you're out of time. Remember, the CoCo 3 is twice as fast, and it's still twice as slow if you're throwing up a 640.
Remember that a lot of the stuff that Ron is doing is a static image display. So
he doesn't care, but
if the screen is all you get, that's all he needs.
That's another thing.
Well, that and you need a ROM cartridge because you have no RAM to load a program to display the screen.
Oh, right. You can't even put the screen
What I
on
don't
the screen.
understand is they say the CoCo's resolution is 320 by 196, right? But
no, the CoCo 3 can do that. CoCo 1 and 2 is
CoCo 3. Yeah, CoCo 3 is 320 by 196.
192, 200, or 225, depending.
Right. But the high res images I do are 320 by 200. How is it that can display the extra?
The Gimme has 3 different vertical modes. It has 192, 200, which is really 199 to a bug in the Gimme, and 225, which is something Nick has used. So it's actually even a higher res than High Color does.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Ron,
but it's only a little bit longer. Like that's why if we did an interlaced, or if we had a Gimme X that could do double the vertical, like to 400 or 450, then you're looking at like just about a VGA display at that point.
Yeah, but Ron just heard a whole new vista open up in front of him for more lines on the screen means bigger image, or you could have a little bar at the bottom that has like the image title and date, and
Right.
I'm trying to remember, does Roger Taylor's Projector 3 have that already? I can't remember what Great Reds he's using on that.
Well, I know CoCo Max had it so that you could scroll a screen. If it was bigger than what you have, you could
Yeah, I don't
scroll
think it
down
actually
and-
enabled the 225 mode, but a lot of games do, like Gunstar's. I can't remember what the horizontal res is, but he's using the longest vertical res.
Okay.
Popstar Pilot used the maximum res.
320 by 225.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so-
on Nick's site is the basic 225.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
actually,
done-
he's patch basics. You can actually see that just on your own programs. You can even enable it.
Yeah, I use that quite a bit.
It's a lot of real screening real estate. The hardware tech screen on Nitrous 9 has the option of doing 80 by 28, for example.
Yeah, 28. That's it.
And I think we use the 200 instead of the 192 for the graphics screen, so we get an extra line of text. We get 25 lines of text instead of 24. The only reason we didn't go beyond that is because it takes an extra. You have to map in another 8K of graphics page because now you're past 32K, and you still got to have room for like get put buffers and the graphics driver software itself and the system
Icon
block
stuff.
and blah 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 blah.
Ron's
You
got
can do it.
more
It's more
video
complicated.
formats now, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not a programmer, so it's not going to happen.
Oh, it could.
If somebody comes up with something, I'll use it to death, like I
Let's
have with
make
high
content
color.
for this and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I understand why Sock stopped at the 320 by 200 though, because on standard PC formats, which is basically what he's reading like BMPs,
Right.
they don't have a 225 mode. They'd be jumping straight to 400, and then you basically have to scroll the screen if you want to do that. Or if the Gimme X was modified to actually handle.
The Gimme X would be your best bet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've kept pushing it. I would love the 160 by 450 mode because I can get the new 256 color mode that the Gimme X has and still fit it in a 32K chunk in the graphics driver, so I wouldn't have to do any weird flipping between maps just to finish drawing one picture type thing. I could actually just do it with a regular driver, and then you can get 256 colors at 160 by 225 res or whatever. That would be awesome.
How many colors does the Gimme X do? Is it 24-bit or?
I think it's 9-bit, isn't it? It's 512 color palette, 256 colors at once.
Right.
I think. Am I right on that?
I can't remember.
I can't remember off the top of my head either.
We need
Something
the
like that.
Zipster here.
Anyway, Ron would be very happy with the Gimme X graphics for his photos anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the same color resolution as the CoCo VGA does, except you've got a lot more resolution to play with. And 256 colors simultaneous real color mode. Whereas the CoCo VGA does 16 colors out of a palette. Depending which version of the CoCo VGA you have, I think one was 512 colors and the later ones are 32,768. It's 15-bit color, I think, is their palette. So you can actually get really subtle shades, but you can only do 16 at once on the same screen. And
It
much
doesn't
lower
have
res.
Right, maximum of.
Yeah, it's
16.
128 by 96 by 16 or something. I basically have to fit in 16 or 6K to match the original VDG mappings.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for the show.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's about time to stick a fork in it. Somebody
Yep.
wait for Mark B.
Canadian Retro Things couldn't even wait that long. He just left, not even letting us quick get
Okay, here we go.
This concludes another episode of the CoCo Nation, the world's leading live interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things the CoCo Nation, visit us on the web at thecoconation.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to show@thecoconation.com. The CoCo Nation Show would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. The CoCo Nation theme song, copyright 2022, D. Bruce Moore. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. The CoCo Nation is over. Join us on the CoCo Discord server.
CoCo ever.
Time for a nap.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a capital plan.
I've already caught up on my nap.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well,
Yeah,
you
show's over
slept-
now. You can wake up.
You
Practice.
slept yesterday.
The thermometer shows 103, so
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See you all next week.
As always.
Yep.
bye
Have a
bye.
good one.
Bye.
Cat, get out of here.
Bye bye.
CoCo